Hello everyone, welcome to What If Quirkless Deku Was Raised by Mitsuki Bakugo Movie 1. Before we start, please go support CrazedTemptations for writing that awesome fanfic. Izuku once was a happy boy, always looking for an adventure. That was until he was labeled Quirkless, and renamed Deku by peers around him, even his ex-best friend, his bully, Bakugo Katsuki. Izuku always did try his best. Never tried to give up. But one day, Katsuki's and Izuku's mother left for a trip out of country after taking Izuku to the hospital because of a fatal fever. After, he had been told almost life-changing news by a nurse. But it was late news that couldn't really change anything anymore. They left Katsuki and Izuku alone. And Katsuki was basically told to babysit Izuku or else. Izuku had been caught in the middle of a villian attack in which he had been heavily injured, then infected with a quirk that was impossible to run from, slowly changing his mind and day-to-day activities. He just can't do it anymore. Nothing can save him now, it seems. Chapter 1. Young. His eyes widened in amazement at Katsuki's newly found quirk. "Wow, Kaken, your quirk is so cool, I hope mine is just as cool," Izuku yelled, as Katsuki showed off his quirk. "Come on, Izuku, your quirk will never be as cool as mine," Katsuki said proudly, still showing off his quirk. Izuku just stayed silent, admiring the small explosions coming from Katsuki's hands. Katsuki and his two other friends along with Izuku walked along a curved log over a shallow river. Katsuki was showing off his quirk while Izuku still gave him many compliments. "Kaken, how does your quirk work? It's so cool," Izuku yelled, still astonished. "I don't know, Izuku, but where's your quirk?" "Huh!" Katsuki and the other two looked back at him. Katsuki's other two friends didn't like Izuku. But after Katsuki had asked such an obvious question, Izuku just simply said, "I'm not sure, Kaken, but I know it'll come soon." Izuku smiled big and flung his arms up, giggling some, but had lost his footing from the log they had been standing on, and slipped, falling into the water. "Clumsy Izuku, watch your footing," Katsuki yelled. Izuku stood slowly and nodded softly. His body soaked in water, he frowned and wiped gravel off of his scraped and wet knees. "Come on, Izuku, you're so slow," Katsuki yelled. "I'm coming, Kaken." Izuku crawled out of the water, shivering slightly, then ran over. "I'm wet, Kaken, we should probably go back." "Izuku, just don't be so clumsy, you're not dying, so stop being so weak, Izuku." Izuku nodded in acknowledgement. Katsuki's other friends laughed. "Kaken, I think I should just go back instead. Mom is probably waiting for me." "Bye," Izuku said, running off back towards the park. "Bye, Izuku." He rolled his eyes and continued chatting with his friends. Few months later. Izuku still hadn't developed his quirk, as all the other students in his class have already gotten their quirks and were showing them off. Mrs. Inko Midoriya was starting to get worried over Izuku's lack of a quirk. So she had taken him to a doctor to talk about it, and to see if he was just a late bloomer. But when they got the news, Mrs. Inko Midoriya was absolutely surprised and quite upset that her son, Izuku Midoriya, would never get a quirk anytime in the near future. This news, for Izuku, completely broke him and his dream. He had looked up to Katsuki's quirk for some time now, and kept telling Katsuki he would get his quirk soon. But now, it was just a lie. A fat lie. Why Izuku? All he ever wanted was to become a hero with Katsuki. Now all is crushed, and he won't ever get the quirk he had so dearly hoped for. The next day Izuku has arrived at school, still upset and frozen from the awful news that was brought to him the day before. Izuku just stayed sitting on the ground as they wonder what was wrong with him. Until... "Hey Izuku," Katsuki walked over and sat with his friend. Izuku glanced up at the ash-blonde boy. "What's wrong, Izuku? Did you finally discover your quirk? Is it not what you wanted, Izuku?" Young Katsuki asked many questions to see what was wrong with his friend. "Izuku? Answer me." Izuku just stared blankly at him, then opened his mouth. "I don't have one," he mumbled under a whisper. "What?" Katsuki asked. "I don't have a quirk, Kaken." "What do you mean, Izuku? Everyone has a quirk," Katsuki yelled. "Not me." Quirkless Izuku." Izuku nodded. "Quirkless Izuku." How are you going to become a hero without a quirk? You'll never become a hero without one, Katsuki yells at him. And Izuku just stayed silent. The day passed and Katsuki just stopped talking to Izuku. Because Katsuki knew that Izuku didn't have a quirk and that it was a waste of time to be his friend. He seemed to want to be one if the popular kids so had friends with strongish quirks. Everyone seemed to stray away from Izuku, thinking from their young little minds that he was contagious, thinking that just talking to him would remove their quirks. A few weeks passed and Izuku started and tried talking to Katsuki again. Hi Kaken, Izuku had ran up to him. What Izuku, actually I have a better name for you. Katsuki grinned. What's that, Kaken? Izuku asked. Since you have a name for me, now I can have a name for you. Quirkless Izuku. Useless and worthless, so Deku, that's your name, Deku. Katsuki grinned, laughing. It matches perfectly, doesn't it, Deku? Katsuki continued. A few months passed and Izuku had gotten used to his new name Deku. Although the meaning behind it hurt him a little, Katsuki never really bullied him, until… Deku, why are you in my sand? Get up, this is my area! Katsuki yelled as his two friends stood behind him. I'm sorry, Kaken, let me get up. Izuku quickly scrambled to his feet just to get pushed over again. Ugh, I was getting up. Izuku complained. You shouldn't have been here in the first place, Deku. Katsuki punched his hand as an explosion bursted from it. Izuku quickly got to his feet again and was shoved backwards. I'm sorry, Kaken, I'm leaving. Izuku whined. Useless Izuku, how are you even going to get away without a quirk? You're nothing special. I can't believe I ever really talked to some like you, Deku. Katsuki yelled, breaking Izuku within each hurtful word. Izuku really believed they were still friends until that statement. You're worthless, Deku, you have no quirk. Quirkless Izuku, so worthless. What gave you the right to come on to my area of the playground? Katsuki yelled, as his hands created mini explosions walking towards Izuku. I'm sorry, Kaken. Izuku once again scrambled to his feet and stepped back. I'll leave, Izuku yelled, now fearing Katsuki's quirk as he ran. Soon enough Izuku was tackled and shoved to the ground by Katsuki. Ugh, Izuku yelped as he was tackled. His chin hit a rock and it busted open. Kaken, stop, Izuku cried. Katsuki created explosions from his hand which quickly disappeared when he saw blood below Izuku that fell from his chin. Deku, stop bleeding everywhere. Izuku slowly got up, pushing Katsuki back, and ran back to class and informed the teacher that he had fallen, and he was sent to the nurse's office, then sent home early. Once Izuku got home, he claimed he was tired. Now Mrs. Inko Midoriya tucked him in and told him good night. Izuku laid in bed. He said he was tired, although he wasn't. Soon hours passed thinking about the names Katsuki would continuously tell him until he fell asleep. Chapter 2. Yum. After a few continuous months of bullying, Izuku just started to tolerate it. He now knew that Katsuki hated him dearly, and so did Katsuki's friend. Izuku was constantly sad despite his age. Present. End of day recess. Izuku was sitting in a bench when Katsuki yelled to him. Deku, Katsuki stomped over. Izuku glanced up every so slightly, then looked down again, kicking his legs softly. Why yes, Kaken? Izuku got a stuttering habit in the few months Katsuki had been bullying him. Katsuki grabbed the rim of his shirt and pulled him up. Stupid Deku is so lonely, no one even talks to him. Katsuki and his friends laughed. Of course, Izuku nodded as tears formed. He thought about his lack of friends and how lonely he was. All he ever wanted was good friends, but he couldn't even make one. Worthless Izuku learned to make some friends. He laughed and shoved Izuku to the ground. Izuku's tears fell as Katsuki continued to yell at him. Why can't you make any friends, huh? Why are you so lonely? That's right. Katsuki grinned. Because you're a Deku, he teased. A useless, boring, worthless Deku. No one wants you, Deku. You have no friends and no one to hang out with, a quirkless wannabe. Katsuki continued. Izuku looked up at him. Why you so mean to me? Izuku got up and ran away. Running won't do anything, stupid Deku, but disappearing will. You're a bad guy. Bad guys don't deserve friends, Deku. Katsuki laughed. Not knowing his words would leave such a huge impact on Izuku's little life. Mrs. Inko Midoriya brought her little Izuku home and told him that she would be back late. Izuku nodded and went upstairs thinking about what Katsuki said as his mom left for work. Useless. Worthless. Disappear. Friendless. Quirkless. Stupid. No wants a quirkless wannabe. You're a bad guy. Bad guys don't deserve friends. Is that what I was, a quirkless wannabe? Izuku thought to himself. A bad guy. Bad guys don't deserve happy things, or to live. He ran into the laundry room. No one loves me. I have no friends. I'm worthless. Unwanted. I should just disappear. Kachan's right. He's always right. I am just a stupid Deku. A bad guy. Young Izuku let that repeat, not knowing what he was doing. He grabbed multiple cleaning liquids that said do not give to children. He grabbed a small cup and mixed them, not knowing what it could do to him. Although he didn't care. He mixed about 6 of them, making this thick concoction of deathly liquids. He looked at one more and it said keep away from children, may lead to death of child if ingested, but all he read was keep away, and knew it must have been dangerous. This would surely kill bad guys. He added it to the concoction, making it thicker. It was a dark green, almost black color. I'm just a stupid Deku, Izuku said before he looked at the time, realizing his mom would be on her way home by now. Izuku was already crying at this point. Scared but ready. He looked at his concoction he had made and took a huge gulp out of it, and gasped, inhaling a small portions of it, and dropped the cup as it fell and splattered on the floor. Almost immediately he felt the agonizing burning feeling go down his throat and down to his stomach and in his chest as he started coughing violently. He fell to the ground screaming in unbearable pain, and soon enough lost consciousness as blood dripped from his mouth. After 20 minutes, Mrs. Inko Midoriya pulled up and started walking into the house. Izuku, love, I'm home. She walked in and walked upstairs to his All Might-themed room. Izuku, honey? She asked again, not seeing her little boy in his bed. She saw the laundry room door opened and walks to it, looking inside. Izuku? She looked at her little boy, terrified, and all the dangerous chemicals around him. She screamed and called 911 immediately and explained what she had saw, then quickly picked up her little boy and ran out the front door, spastically looking around until the ambulance arrived and took him. They told Inko she wasn't allowed in the vehicle. She nodded, freaking out as the ambulance left, and ran her way to her closest friend's house. Mitsuki Bakugo. Inko knocked on the door and heard heavy yelling. Although Inko was used to this yelling, the panic state she was in didn't help. Soon enough, Mitsuki opened the door. Inko? Why are you crying? What happened? Katsuki looked around his mom and looked at the fairly skinny women, green eyes, and long green hair. I remembered Deku's mom, Katsuki thought. Inko explained the issue to Mitsuki, and they quickly headed their way to the hospital together, bringing Katsuki along as well. Wow, he actually tried to make himself disappear. Stupid Deku. It's not that easy. Stupid dad, if he were home I wouldn't have to go with Mom and Mrs. Midoriya, Katsuki thought. A while later they arrived at the hospital and requested to see Izuku. They were denied and was told no, for Izuku was in surgery. About an hour later Katsuki was asleep in his mother's lap, and Inko was still worrying for her son. Midnight. Inko was less panicked and was sitting calmly thinking. Katsuki was still asleep and Mitsuki was gently petting his ash-blonde spiky hair. A doctor came in and said that they could see Izuku, so they got up and walked down the quiet hall. Mitsuki carried Katsuki as he woke up. Mom, can we go home? No, hun, not until we know Izuku is okay. They enter the room, and Izuku is hooked up to many machines. A doctor stands in there taking notes and checking the monitors, then looks at Inko. You must be the mother. Inko nods, looking at her son. He coughs violently, but the doctor doesn't react. Why is he coughing so much? Inko asked. I'm very sorry, we did all we could, but one of the chemical he ingested was not supposed to be ingested at all costs. It seems when he did ingest it, he also inhaled some, completely destroying his lungs and heart. Also, it severely damaged his kidney, intestines, stomach, and any other body part it passed through. Look, the chemical he ingested should have killed him. You are very lucky, Mrs. Midoriya. The doctor explains. Mitsuki's eyes widen, wondering why a child would do such a thing. Katsuki stares at Izuku and rolled his eyes. Stupid Deku, he thought. Inko's eyes filled with tears as she nodded in acknowledgement. Now, if he takes this medicine regularly, he may live till 17. Without it, maybe only 15. His heart and lungs are very weak now. And caring for him will be a lot of war. Mitsuki butts in. I can also watch him while you go to work, Inko. Inko looks at her and nods. Thank you, Mitsuki. The doctor also adds. He will be here for 2 weeks. Also, he hasn't woken up yet. So, we have to wait. Also, your bill here, 100,000 yen. Inko's eyes widen. 100,000 yen? The doctor nods. You can gradually pay it off, take your time. The doctor leaves soon after. Katsuki continued to whine, not caring about Izuku's condition, and Mitsuki took him home a while after. Inko went with because she had no other way home. Izuku stayed unconscious, coughing every now and then. But the 2 weeks passed quickly, and young Izuku was still unconscious, and his coughing got worse. Chapter 3. A week later. After the first 2 weeks, Inko was in the hospital room with Izuku, and Mitsuki was also with Inko, as Katsuki was at school. The doctor in the room was messing the wires and checking the machines. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Izuku fluttered his eyes open and looked around, feeling sharp pains in his chest, and started coughing violently, coughing up blood. Inko freaked out, watching the crimson liquid spout out of her son's mouth. The doctor told her not to worry, for it was only his lungs and heart. Izuku's coughing soon stopped, and the doctor wiped the blood. Izuku, dear? Are you okay? Inko asked. Izuku looked over and nodded some. Then his eyes watered, remembering what happened, and how he failed to please and fulfill Katsuki's request. Inko worried for her crying son. What's wrong, Izuku? It just hurts, Mommy. Izuku lied. It didn't hurt all that bad. But he didn't want to tell his mother why he was really crying. Then do you mind telling me why you did what you did? Inko asked. Mitsuki watched, then bowed, leaving. I'll see you later, Inko. Inko nodded, then looked at her bedridden son. I can't remember, Mommy, I'm sorry, Izuku replied. But I want to go home. Inko looked at the doctor, and she nodded, leaving a medicine by Izuku's already folded clothes. Yes, hun, we can leave. And you'll start school again next week. Izuku nodded and looked down, slowly sitting up, coughing. After some time, the doctor walked back in and informed Inko about all the casualties of her son. How he'll have to eat. No extreme physical activities. Nothing that will accelerate his breathing or heart rate. And that he will need a checkup every 3 months. Few weeks later, everyone understood Izuku's case and still just left him alone, although Katsuki didn't give any bucks about Izuku's fragile health. Present. Katsuki walked up to Izuku as he sat on a bench looking down and kicked his legs softly. Deku, Katsuki yelled. Izuku looked up at him. Yes, Keikaken? And then the usual name calling and hitting continued. Izuku held his coughs, and like usual, he hated the attention he got from when he coughed, so he painfully held them in. Time skip. Middle school. Last day. Since you're all third years, it's time for you to think seriously about your future, the teacher said. I'd pass out further application handouts, but he threw the papers up as they all scattered. I already know you guys want to enter the hero course, the teacher exclaimed as all the students showed off their quirks. Yes, you all have wonderful quirks, but using your powers at school is against the rules. The class settled down until Katsuki yelled. Teach, don't lump me with all these losers. I'm not gonna be stuck at the bottom with the rest of these rejects. Bakugo Katsuki, the class yelled at him. That was uncalled for, Katsuki, the teacher said. Yeah, you all should shut up like the extras you are, Katsuki continued. Oh, if I remember correctly, you wanted to go to UA? Hi, right, Bakugo? UA? Someone asked. That national school? It was in the top 0. Someone murmured. 2% this year. You know their acceptance rate's always really low, too. Someone yelled. Katsuki stood in his desk and pointed at himself, letting his pride consume him. That's exactly why you guys are just extras. I aced the mock test. I'm the only one at this school who could possibly get into UA. I'll definitely surpass All Might and become the top hero. My name will be inscribed on the list of top earn. Katsuki was cut off by the teacher. Oh yeah, Midoriya wanted to go to UA too, right? Huh? Midoriya? No way, you can't get into the hero course just by studying. Someone yelled. They got rid of that rule. There's just no PR precedent. Izuku tried to reason. Hey, Deku, you're below these rejects. You're quirkless. How can you even stand in the same ring as me? Are you trying to challenge me? Katsuki shoved and exploded his desk, making Izuku fly backwards. No, wait, Kaken, it's not like I'm trying to compete with you or anything. Believe me, it's just that it's been my goal ever since I was little. So I won't know unless I try. He scrambled backwards and hit the wall, coughing hard, and shook his hands spastically to justify that he was for sure that he wasn't any threat to Katsuki pride. What do you mean, unless you try? Are you taking the test for fun? What the hell can you do? You're quirkless, worthless, weak, Katsuki yelled. Soon enough the teacher calmed them down, and Izuku got back into his seat, covering his bloody mouth, still coughing. Time passed. Ring, ring, ring. The bell rang and Izuku took out his phone. Oh yeah, the fight this morning. Izuku scrolled through his phone. I should take notes before I forget. He opened his hero analysis notebook. We're not done talking yet, Deku. Katsuki walked over. Katsuki, what's that? One of his friends asked, and Katsuki showed them and they laughed. Hero analysis for the future, huh? One of them snickered. Izuku looked at them and frowned. Oh okay, well Kaken, just you give it back already. Izuku complained, and Katsuki tched, and then slammed the book between his palms as they bursted into explosions, destroying the notebook. Hey, that's mean, Izuku whined. Then Katsuki threw it out the window into a koi pond. Most top first-string heroes have stories about them from their school days. I want the shine of being able to be called the only student to make it into UA, from this mediocre city junior high school. I mean, I'm a perfectionist. And that's not my ego speaking. Katsuki grinned. Ego, one of his friends mumbled. Katsuki growled, then ignored. So anyway, don't apply to UA, nerd. Katsuki and just friends start to walk off. Come on, you could at least say something back. Katsuki's friend teased. He's pathetic, one of them whispered. He still can't face reality, another whispered back. Katsuki stopped at the door and glanced at Izuku. Hey Deku, if you want to be a hero that badly, there's a quick way to do it. Izuku lit up a bit, thinking Katsuki would say something nice, and went to turn around, then frozen again at his next set of words. Just believe you get another one in your next life, and take a swan dive of the roof of the school. He laughed and left. Izuku stood there contemplating. His eyes water, and he grabbed his bag, running out and past Katsuki, yelling, Fine. Katsuki was confused at first and stared at him, then tched. Izuku ran quickly to the roof, coughing heavily. He busted through the door and looked at the city below as tears fell. Worthless. Unwanted. Weak. Useless. Deku. Faulty. Unneeded. More of his tears fell, as these thoughts spun around his head, then more flooded in. Kill yourself? Bad guy. Take a swan dive. You could never be a hero. It's pointless. He's delusional. He hasn't even realized reality. What is wrong with him? He's not even worth hanging out with. Idiot. Don't even apply for UA. There's no hope. Izuku couldn't stand the voices any longer, and he put his hand in his head and gripped his hair, as his legs began to give out and he fell to his knees. Stop, Izuku screamed and cried. I'll do it. Izuku stood up and walked to the ledge and climbed over the railing, then the voice continued. No one will care. Mom only pities your weak ass. Kaken will be happy. Not even a hero would want to save you. Just jump already, it would solve everyone's problems. Make everyone happy. Izuku let a leg forward, then froze, hearing the door swing open. Izuku. Izuku looked back to see the ash-blonde boy, and puts his foot back on the ledge. Go away, Izuku murmured. Not till you get off the ledge. You're the one who told me to do it, you told me to, so I will. Izuku started coughing as his grip loosens from the ledge. Izuku, stop, damn it. Katsuki ran towards the ledge. Izuku let go and started to fall, coughing. But before he could go too far down, Katsuki threw himself off the ledge, still holding on with one hand, and grabbed onto Izuku's arm tight. You idiot. Before this. Katsuki's POV. I'm walking out of school now, and Deku just runs past me and yells fine. What? What the buck does he mean by fine? Then it hit me, and I knew exactly what he meant by it. Shit, just because I said it doesn't mean bucking do it. I ran all the way to the roof and swung the door open. He's already on the ledge. This idiot. Izuku, I yell, he needs to get down or he really will kill himself. Go away, he said. He said, what does he mean by go away? I can't just go away. If he dies, commits suicide, I'll be blamed for instigating a suicide. And I have 2 witnesses. I don't need to go to jail. That would completely ruin my chance of becoming a pro-hero, damn it, Deku. So I yell back. Not till you get off the ledge. You're the one who told me to do it, you told me to, so I will. He yelled. This worthless piece of shit, he neighed. He's coughing, he's letting go. He let go, shit. I run and I grab on the ledge and throw the rest of my body off and grab Deku's arm and I hold it tight. What the hell is wrong with you? He doesn't respond. Damn it, his arm is so small. Just bone. I slowly pull myself up, still holding on to him. I yank his arm up, feeling it pop out of place. Oops. I throw him on the ground and look at him. What's wrong with you, nerd? Chapter 4. Izuku POV. Why did he save me? I just wanted to be let go. I thought he told me to do this. Am I wrong? What's wrong with me? My shoulder hurts. It's bent wrong. I just want to go home. I hope Mom's working. Oh, he's yelling at me. What's with you, nerd? Why did you save me? That's your concern? Yes, Kaken. I slowly sit up and look at my dislocated arm. It hurts so much now. Here are my waterworks. Maybe if I start smiling more he won't suspect anything, not now though, it'll make me seem insane, although I do want to give him the most realist smile, and say I'm fine. I guess I just wasn't myself for a good few minutes. I don't know what came over me. And then chuckle nervously, rubbing the back of my neck. But I can't, he would never believe me. Because if you die, I'd be instigated for a suicide. Which means I can't be a hero. I could care less if you actually died or not. But don't do it because of my damned comments, Deku. I should have known. Of course he didn't care. He didn't save me because he wanted to. He did it for his future. Sometimes I wish he cared. But no. His pride is just too much. I have to cough. I don't want to right now. I slowly stood up and walked to the door. Thanks, Kaken. Deku, your bucking arm. It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt that bad. It hurts a lot, but not like he cares. The door closed and I started walking down. Also, I started coughing. The coughing only hurt my chest. I usually bring a prescribed inhaler, but I've forgotten it so many times, so I only use it when I get home. I walk out of the school and look at the koi pond that holds my burnt and soaked notebook. That's not fish food. I mutter and shoo the fish away. Give it back. I grab my notebook and look at it. Then I think for a moment, thinking what's the point in saving a quirkless person if they may just die earlier on anyways? I mean, I know it's a hero's job to save anyone no matter the circumstances, but still. Geez, what am I thinking? I may not be able to get into the hero course, but maybe the support classes. I'm on my way home, thinking, what were those voices I heard on the roof earlier? In all honesty, I've never heard them before. I mean, they felt so true. Does Mom pity me? Will a hero really not come and try and save me? Am I really that worthless? No, wait, I responded the voice. Why is my memory all jumbled? I'm confused. No. None of it is true. A hero will save anyone. No matter how terrible the circumstances, I mean, All Might would save everyone. Plus, he would have support, right? Right. Just because I'm quirkless means nothing. All I have to is study fighting tactics, pro heroes and the new heroes. I should also search up on how they train their Yi students, and I should watch the old Yi sport festivals. I may have no muscle now, but I can train for the summer. I have many more months beforehand. Screw what Kaken says, studying and physical training can get me there. Kaken might try and stop me, but geez, why doesn't Kaken like me? I just have to look forwards. I know I can do it. And soon I can be like All Might, and save people with a smile. Sue. I feel something grab me. What? It's like a goop? I try and grab the goop, but my hands slip through. It's liquid? Don't worry about what other people think, kid. MH? I can't say anything, my lungs feel cramped. Was I mumbling again? Calm down, this will only hurt for about 45 seconds. You'll feel better soon. I can't breathe. I keep trying to pull the goop away, but it's not working. You can't grab me. I'm a fluid, it's impossible, kid. It's getting dark, black start to invade me vision. My body grows limp. Am I going to die this way? Is this it? Not yet. I need to prove that quirkless people can become a hero too. Thanks for the help, kid. You're my hero. Somebody help me. End of POV. As Izukus struggled against the villain, well, until he slipped away from consciousness. Soon enough a powerful wind blew about, and yelling was heard. Texas smash, Izuku was thrown out of the villain's grasp, and hit the ground unconscious. The pro-hero bottled the liquid villain, and put the bottles in his pants pockets, then walked over to see a kid's notebook and signed it quickly, and looked at the pale, broccoli-haired kid. Oh dear, as he leaned down and smacked the kid's face. Kid, wake up. Izuku slowly opened his eyes and looked at the hero as his eyes widened, scrambling backwards. All and might? I'm glad to see that you're fine, young. He paused. Mizuku Idaria Izuku Midoriya. He chuckles. Well, young Midoriya, I'm sorry you got caught up with my justice ing. Wait, please sign. Izuku opened his notebook to an already signed page. He already signed it. Izuku freaked, completely fanboying. Thank you, this will be passed on generations to come. The hero chuckled. Well, I must leave and turn this guy in. He patted his pockets and smiled. Goodbye, young Midoriya. Until we meet again, the hero said as he squatted stretching, then powered up his quirk and jumped from the ground into the sky. Izuku. Before he left, I leaped and grasped onto his leg. I had a question. This is my favorite hero. I need my question to be answered. But we're flying. I can feel my cheeks growing and my eyes drying. All Might looks down at me. Young Midoriya, I know you're my fan, but this is certainly too much. He yelled at me as he tried to push me away. Saint, stop, if I let go I'll die. A good point. Just cover your mouth and eyes. I nodded and buried my head into his leg. While they flew through the air, the hero mumbled shit as blood slipped from his mouth. He wiped it, and soon landed on a tall building's rooftop. Izuku let go and fell to the ground. On his hands and knees he coughed immensely, and some blood came up, but he just wiped it with his sleeve and stood slowly looking at the hero that was about to leave. Well, young man, I must get going. The hero squatted down. Wait. What? The hero sounds stern and rushy. Can ever be a hero like you, even if I am quirkless? Izuku bowed down, closing his eyes tight, and put his hands against his chest, gripping his school jacket. The question Izuku so longed for to be answered, he would finally get to hear it from the number one hero. His idol. Izuku waited for an answer, then it came. No, a quirkless person could never become a hero. Izuku went pale to those words. An instant no, his idol, the number one hero, just told him no. Izuku's longed for answer was answered, but he didn't know that the number one hero, the symbol of peace, All Might, would tell him no, and be so cold about it. Some small flashbacks filled Izuku's head, the first one, when him and his mother were at the quirk specialist, when he was told that he may not have a quirk in any near future. When Izuku was watching his favorite video of All Might saving people. When his mother told Hai she was sorry that things couldn't get better for him. Every name that Katsuki had called him after finding out how he was quirkless, how he had no friends because of it, now this his idol telling him he couldn't, because he's quirkless. Why am I the way I am? Why was I even going to try? No one believes in me, not even Mom. What's wrong with me? Izuku thought to himself. All Might spoke. Be real, kid, you died before saving anybody, you wouldn't even make it into the top 3, even if you had physical strength. Get real, kid, quirkless people don't need to become heroes. Even if it is a dream, just drop it, kid, it's impossible. Be real, become a policeman, they may not get the credit or do much, but you can at least have physical strength for it. Or a firefighter, they both get paid well, maybe not like a hero's pay, but enough to keep you living. Let me bring you back to reality, kid. You could never become a hero unless you're willing to die early on. Goodbye, young man. Hopefully you'll realize reality. The hero had left and headed to the police station before his form could deflate. Izuku stood straight and walked to the door and opened it, and walked down many flights of stairs. When he reached the bottom, he started to cough. His coughing got harder, until it got hard to breathe. He was gasping for air. He fell to his knees and put a hand on his chest, gripping his jacket, coughing harder. He gasped immensely, trying to breathe in between coughs as blood started to hit the ground. Tears started falling as the coughing fit soon stopped. Izuku panted and looked up and slowly stood, then looked down at the blood puddle on the ground. He wiped his mouth and more tears fell. He walked back to where the villain has suffocated him and grabbed his yellow backpack and his notebook that had been left there. As he was walking back home, the sun had started to set. Izuku was looking down, dragging his feet. He was tired and exhausted. He was told to kill himself. He almost killed himself without thinking. Katsuki saved him. Katsuki said he didn't care. He was caught by a villain. He had an unexpected encounter. His dreams were crushed. Although he kept trying, telling himself that he'd try, but he didn't like All Might all the much anymore. Izuku was mumbling about his day when he had ran into someone. Katsuki. Watch where you're going, nerd. Sorry, Kaken. Izuku plainly said as he walked around Katsuki, looking down. Katsuki eyes wide and looking at him. No reaction. TCH. Although it wasn't known to Izuku, Katsuki was listening to Izuku's mumbles. And although Izuku didn't realize it, Izuku was talking about his full afternoon. And Katsuki now knew it all. Although he didn't care, he actually agreed what All Might said to him. Of course Izuku couldn't be a hero, he's just a quirkless wannabe. Izuku entered his house. Inko told Izuku that she had dinner waiting for him in the fridge. He politely declined, saying he wasn't hungry, although he was starving. He told his mother that he was tired after talking to her about school, even though most of it was lies. He walked up to his room and closed the door to his All Might themed room. He looked around and started taking down all the posters, and he threw all the All Might figures into a box and threw that posters into the trash bin. He looked around to his plain gray room, and looked down, changing into some pajamas. He walked to the bathroom and brushed his teeth and washed his face, then walked back to his room and laid in bed. As soon as he closed his eyes, he was already asleep. He had no faith in All Might anymore. He still couldn't believe what he had said. But he was still going to try, even if it cost him his life. Chapter 5. Alas, morning has come, but Izuku wasn't feeling himself. He slowly awoken, and looked around his plain gray room, confused of where all his All Might stuff had went. Then he remembered everything. He sat up slowly and looked down and messed with his hands. I feel sick, he thought to himself, and got out of bed slowly. As he dragged his feet, he walked out of his room and downstairs to see his mother in the kitchen making breakfast. Hey sweetheart, I made breakfast. She had a plate for him already. She had set it down on the table. Eggs, toast, and some orange juice. Thanks, Mom. He sat down and looked at the food and stared, not realizing it. Izuku, honey? Are you feeling okay? You should eat since you did it last night. Inko worried for him. Oh, yes, sorry, I'm just not feeling well. He started to pick at his food and eat. Inko worried more and walked over to her son and places a hand on his head. Izuku looked at her. What are you doing? Checking for a fever. She moved her hand and kissed his head and frowned. You're a little warm, we have guests coming for lunch, and they'll be staying till dinner. You should finish eating then go lie down, okay? Inko worried and just wanted her son to rest. Besides, the Bakugos were coming for lunch and dinner. Izuku finished eating and went upstairs, and in the bathroom, he slowly undressed himself and looked in the mirror. He frowned and looked down, and got into the shower. After his shower, he wrapped a towel around himself and walked to his room. He dried off and put on some boxers and a pair of dark green joggers and laid in bed. He sighed and closed his eyes. My head hurts, it throbbing, Izuku thought to himself, trying to sleep. It hurts a lot. A small fever, it's cold, Izuku kept thinking. He pulled a thick blanket over himself, coughing softly, but that turned into coughing harder and gasping. He reached and grabbed his inhaler, using it. His coughing died down. His coughing fits were getting worse and more painful. He hated the coughing fits. He hated himself for what he did when he was younger, but the past is the past, and unfortunately you can't change it. Lunch came around and the Bakugos knocked at the door. Inko had prepared triangle-cut sandwiches, with no crust. Inko opened the door for them and let them in. Hello Mitsuki, Katsuki. Inko hugged Mitsuki and smiled at Katsuki. Unfortunately, Mr. Bakugo was at work. Inko, hi. Thank you so much for having us over. Of course, Izuku and I have been to your house so many times already. Now it's time I return the favor. Katsuki stood by the door watching them talk. TCH. I'm going to find Izuku. Oh, okay Katsuki-hun, please be quiet or patient with him, he's not feeling well right now. Okay Ms. Midoriya. He started to walk towards the stairs and shed. Sounds like an excuse, Katsuki thought. Katsuki knocked at Izuku's bedroom door, then walked in and looked at him. Izuku was blushing from a high fever and panting heavily, coughing, wrapped in a thick blanket, shivering. NGH, Izuku whimpers lightly, curling up, coughing harder. Katsuki watched him squirm and move. He soon walked her and pulled the blanket off, and Izuku woke up, opening his eyes slowly. Kaken? He panted out, his body pale and thin. Damn nerd, you can't have a thick blanket around you like that. Katsuki put his hand on Izuku's head. You're burning up. When did you last fall asleep? You're going to die of a fever, Deku. Izuku looked at Katsuki and frowned. It's not like why you'll care if I die or not. Izuku coughed more as blood spouted from his mouth. He snatched the blanket and curled up again. Katsuki's eyes widened hearing Izuku's words. Deku, he growled. Get up your ass up and come downstairs. You should treat your guests differently. Izuku slowly sat up and put his blanket to the side, coughing. Did Mom ask me to come downstairs? No, but you should instead of sleeping. Lazy nerd. I'm not here to watch you cough and whimper. Izuku nodded and stood shakily and walked to his closet, putting a thick hoodie on. No, you can't wear a hoodie. Katsuki walked over and took the hoodie off of him and grabbed a thin black shirt. Put this on. If your fever gets higher, it could be fatal. Izuku looked at Katsuki and smiled. Thank you, Kaken. Izuku put the shirt on and frowned some, looking at Katsuki. Why do you care about my health, Kaken? Katsuki was taken back at the sudden question, then thought. I probably shouldn't act like a total asshat at your house. Besides, my mom is downstairs. So be. Izuku fell to the ground, coughing up blood. UGCK. Katsuki's eyes widened and remembered how normal this was. He walked to Izuku's desk and grabbed his inhaler and handed it to him. Hurry and use it, nerd. Izuku took it and used it and calmed down. I'll be down later, Kaken, please leave. Don't tell me what to do, you quirkless loser. Bucking annoying. Izuku sat on the ground and waited as his head pounded. He just wanted to sleep. But if he didn't listen to Katsuki, he would probably get yelled at even more, and he didn't want any noises. Katsuki stared at Izuku and left. TCH, he walked downstairs and into the kitchen where his mom and Ms. Inko Midoriya was located. Inko turned to look at Katsuki. Oh, Katsuki-hun, how is he? Was he asleep? Katsuki sighed and looked at the worried Inko. He's fine, just a high fever. Is it bad? I hadn't checked on him in a few hours. Ms. Midoriya, he's fine, stop worrying. Also, he's going to be coming down in a little bit. Thank you, Katsuki. He nodded and looked at his mother, who was staring at him. What old hag? Don't use that tone towards me. I'm your birth giver. Respect me, you fool. She slapped his head and he growled. Inko laughed. Once Izuku comes down, we have to tell you two something, Inko said. Izuku cleaned up his floor and shuffled back to his warm bed and laid down, curling back up in his blanket. Soon enough, he drifted back asleep. A few hours later passed and Izuku was thrashing around, panting and coughing. He was cold and shivering, but his fever said otherwise. Katsuki sat at the table growling. Well, he said he'd come down. Just let him be then, he's probably sleeping again. Katsuki rolled his eyes and stood up and walked out and upstairs and back into Izuku's room. He was the same as before, but twitching randomly. Katsuki walked over and picked him up, removing the blanket. He then walked downstairs with him and into the kitchen. Katsuki-hun. Inko watched him. PL, please leave him be. Katsuki, Ched, and set Izuku on the counter and opened their medicine cabinet and pulled out a thermometer stick and placed it under Izuku's tongue. Izuku's pants got heavier and he shivered more. He slowly opened his eyes, but barely. Izuku looked up at Katsuki. Stay calm, nerd. Katsuki, don't call him that. Mitsuki yelled. Shut it, old hag. Izuku flinched at the instant, yelling. Katsuki took the thermometer out and looked at the temperature. He should probably go to a hospital. Inko's eyes widened. What? Is his fever that bad? For someone who's quirkless, yeah? Izuku looked in them and sat up, pushing self off of counter, wincing as his head throbbed. Izuku stumbled to the side and started walking out of the kitchen. Izuku, honey, please. She rushed to him to try and stop him, but before she could even take a step, he collapsed, going unconscious. Katsuki, what was his fever? Mitsuki walked over and picked him up. Huh? Oh, 107, he growled. Inko gasped and tears started falling. Do we take him there or do we call an ambulance? Katsuki glanced at the panicked Inko. Mitsuki started to the door holding Izuku. We take him since he's still breathing. She walked out and to her car. She sat Izuku in the back seat. Katsuki had followed it and got in the back and looked out the window. Inko got into the front and fidgeted with her hands. They arrived at the hospital and they filed out, except Katsuki was holding Izuku now. They signed in and filled out papers as Izuku was held in a room being treated. Inko turned in the papers and waited so she could visit him. Katsuki sat in the corner of the waiting room playing on his phone. He didn't care. He knew the nerd would be fine. A while passed and they were told they could visit Izuku. Katsuki ignored. They walked to Izuku's room where he seemed completely fine. Izuku opened his eyes and looked at his mom. Why am I here? You collapsed and your fever was too high, but it's okay now, your fever is down. But how are you feeling? Inko looked at him. Small headache, but I'm fine for now. Izuku looked to the side and Inko started talking again. Well, me and Mitsuki told Katsuki in the car, but I'm going with Mitsuki on one of her trips with her husband as well, and you'll be staying in her house with Katsuki, so he'll be watching after you. Oh, okay. Izuku pretend yawned and looked over. I'm a bit tired, can I rest for a bit? Yeah, you'll be getting let out tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Inko stood and left the room looking down and Mitsuki followed behind. They went home with Katsuki. The day passed and Izuku stared at the ceiling. And then a doctor ran in and looked at him. Where's your mother? We have important news for Inko Midoriya. Izuku jumped to the sudden noise. She left a while ago, but you can tell me. The doctor looked at him. It's rare, very rare. But since the news includes you, you should know first, huh? And if you don't want your mother knowing, that's perfectly fine, yet disappointing. Okay, see, can you just tell me? Well, the doctor started. It seems. Izuku's eyes widened to the sudden news. How is it possible? Chapter 6. Izuku was surprised by the news that was just shared. How? It's not possible. Not one but two? He thought he was just sick. But he wasn't. They didn't know what it was at first, but they took some tests, and it seems that he just developed late. But Izuku was in absolute shock, not knowing what they were yet. But 2 possible quirks. Quirks C. Not only was he not quirkless anymore, he didn't know how to activate a quirk. He didn't want to tell anyone, because it would just come off as a simple lie. And anyone would laugh at him. The worst part about it is Izuku didn't even believe the news, yet it was surprising, but not 1, but 2, seems impossible. Besides, he might as well be quirkless still since he didn't even know how to use the damn things, or how it feels to use them. The doctor explained how and why he got sick the way he did. The quirks they may be manifesting in him were basically fighting over each other like a virus against white blood cells. Izuku didn't want to tell his mother about the quirks, because if he couldn't believe it, there was no point, because his mother would tell everyone. In a sense, Izuku was scared. He didn't know what his quirks could be. He didn't realize, but he had been mumbling to himself, and the doctor shushed him. But now he may had quirks manifesting he could totally get by the entrance exams, even with physical training. Izuku fell asleep after the doctor left, and the night passed quickly. When he woke up, Katsuki was in the room with earbuds in. Izuku looked around confused why his mother wasn't there, but Katsuki was. Kaken? Where's Mom? Katsuki sighed and glanced at him, rolling his eyes. The plane was supposed to leave next week, but schedule changed and they had to leave early this morning. Now they had you check out a while ago, Deku. Hurry and get your ass up. Izuku slowly got up and winced at the instant throbbing of his head. Izuku grabbed his clothes from the back and walked into a bathroom that was connected to the room. He quickly changed and walked out, tapping on Katsuki's shoulder. Katsuki reacted quickly and grabbed his wrist as flames bursted from his palms, burning Izuku's skin. NHK Kaken. Katsuki let go quickly and looked at Izuku. You bucking scared me, nerd. Katsuki stood up and shoved Izuku to the side and walked out. Let's go. Katsuki growled, walking out. Izuku frowned and followed out just to get stopped by the doctor that was treating him. Izuku froze and looked at her. Why, yes? Izuku asked, looking at her. She started at a whisper, knowing that he didn't want anyone knowing about this yet. So she respected that. This is a quirk suppressor. Take one every day. Since there may be more than one, it could potentially make your life fatal, creating a sickness within your body. When you learn your quirks, you should go see a quirk specialist. She handed him a small bag that held 2 bottles with 200 pills in each bottle. The pills must be small, Izuku thought to himself. Izuku nodded and thanked her, then quickly went to catch up with Katsuki. But when he went outside of the hospital, he was nowhere to be seen. He just left Izuku there, without a second thought. Izuku sighed and started walking, dragging his feet. The hospital was kind of far from his house, and Katsuki's. Welp, I guess I'm going for a walk, Izuku thought to himself as he coughed lightly. The brightness from the sun made Izuku's head throb. He looked down and tried to ignore the bright lights. While Izuku was walking, he heard yelling and screaming. He turned the corner to see a villain attack, heroes on the ground bleeding or unconscious. He looked around spastically. There were more than just one villain. There were multiple. Izuku stepped back. Although he wanted to watch how the heroes would deal with this situation, he didn't want to end up in the hand of a villain. Izuku told himself to move and leave by the area, but his feet didn't move. He was stuck to the ground watching as this went down. Civilians screaming and running, some bleeding and stuck under debris, ashes and dust flew within the air. Izuku coughed. The dust filled air suffocated him. He'd leave, but he was just frozen as the attack took place. Lucky he wasn't in plain sight. Izuku didn't understand why he couldn't move. Just frozen in place. He wanted to help, but knew he would just die before saving anyone. Sound like what All Might told him. He'd died before saving anyone. Izuku noted everything he was seeing, whether it was the villain's quirk, how it may have worked, how they looked, how they fought, and the weapons they used. He noted all of that. He didn't even think he would remember. But he wanted to write it down in his notebook, although little did he know he was mumbling. And he wasn't all that quiet, he was mumbling louder than usual. He noted all the villains that were there, even their physical appearances, and the heroes. Until he felt a hand on his shoulder. Hey kid, why are you standing here all alone? You have no business here. Why don't you run to your mommy before something happens to you, A raspy voice spoke behind Izuku. Izuku slowly turned as his eyes widened, a villain for sure, although he hasn't seen this one in the chaos yet. He had a hand over his face, and hands on his shoulders, sides, legs, and the back of his head. His neck was covering in scabs and his lips were chapped. There were random scarring on this man. Izuku took note of this man, but still didn't know what his quirk was. Until Izuku looked at the villain's hand, and there was all but one finger touching. It was obviously purposeful. Izuku didn't know what to say to the villain that had a hold of him. I'm sorry! Izuku went to step forward and the fifth finger of the villain's hand touched Izuku's shoulder. No witnesses, the raspy voice said quietly. Izuku felt the agonizing pain of his shoulder as the shoulder of his shirt disintegrated, and his skin started to deteriorate. Tissue and past the thin muscle close to the bone started to turn to dust. Izuku screamed in pain and fell to his knees, gripping his bloodied shoulder. The villain let go. Now you're known. I'll let the others deal with you. And remember, kid, and no witnesses. The raspy voice laughed, and Izuku turned around quickly to see the man gone. But when Izuku looked forward, a new villain started walking his way. He saw this villain running around grabbing people, but had just made them unconscious. But the civilians he had caught just ended up dying from debris, or other villains when they woke up. Izuku stood as quick as he could, trying to keep away from the villain walking towards him. This is all his fault. If he would have just left at the beginning, he wouldn't have been caught up in this mess. Izuku went to book it when all of a sudden he started to have a coughing fit, and he fell to his knees as blood spouted from his mouth. The villain was tall, his hair was black, his skin was pale, and his eyes were red. He had some freckles, but they were light. The villain wore all black. Seems like you have enough problems, but let's add some more. The villain's voice was deep. Izuku glanced at him, trembling in fear. He tried to stand but fell from the agonizing pain that was being spread throughout his body from his arm. His chest was tight, now tighter, as the villain grabbed him. You'll only be out for a little bit. A black goop came from the man and surrounded Izuku, making Izuku look at him. Now stare into my eyes, child. The goop acted on accord and made Izuku's eyes widen. Now, child, I'm sure you're wondering what my quirk is, huh? Now let me share. Izuku tried to close his eyes, for he didn't want to know, he didn't want to understand. He wanted to leave, escape this hellhole. The villain started talking. My quirk is called severe depression. Izuku spoke up, his voice trembling. That doesn't sound that bad. Anyone can overcome that. Oh, is that what you believe? This quirk have many different uses. Let me demonstrate. The man grinned as his eyes turned a bright white. While the villain did his thing, he started talking again. Izuku was forced to stare into his eyes, unable to move, and now unable to speak, for his mouth was covered. Severe depression includes voices, unwanted thoughts, change in behavior, change in beliefs, lack of interests, an inability to control one's body or actions, nightmares, sleepless nights, loss of appetite, and much more. Izuku felt his head go dizzy as the man's eyes faded back to red. Now I'm sure you're thinking, it'll go away in a week or two like most quirks. Sorry, child, but mine only goes away if you overcome it, and Eve never seen anyone overcome it before they killed themselves, so good luck. This villain finished talking and dropped Izuku as his mind was far away from consciousness. A little bit of time passed as Izuku started to open his eyes again. Still chaos surrounded him, but he couldn't remember why his was unconscious. When he finally came back to his senses, he felt the awful pain that was located in what used to be his shoulder. He groaned painfully and slowly got up. He ran from the scene as tears flew from his eyes. He ran straight to Katsuki's house, where he was supposed to be possible hours ago. The pain from Izuku's shoulder got worse as it continued to bleed out. Izuku soon made it back to Katsuki's house and tried to open the door, but it was locked. He knocked with his good arm. His vision faded again and he wobbled. Blood continued to fall from his missing shoulder. A few minutes later he heard the door unlock and soon it opened. Katsuki yelled almost immediately. He wasn't paying attention. Where the hell have you been, Deku? As soon as that was said, Katsuki looked up and his eyes widened. I'm sorry, Kakak and I got caught in a villain attack downtown. Izuku words slurred as he fell unconscious once again. Katsuki caught him and brought him inside, quickly treating his open wound. Katsuki eventually got the bleeding to stop and wrapped it carefully. He moved Izuku to his room and laid him on his bed. Idiot! Katsuki left her room and went downstairs and sat in the living room. He then watched TV for the next few hours. It was soon night, and Izuku woke up slowly and sat up. Kaken's room? Chapter 7. Izuku woke up in Katsuki's room, tired and confused. He slowly got up. He felt a slight soreness in his shoulder. That's when he remembered everything. All the memories came pouring into his head. He slowly walked downstairs to see Katsuki on the couch, asleep. Izuku's POV. I slowly crept downstairs to see Kaken, asleep, on the couch. He let me rest in his room. How can it be possible that he can look angry when he's awake, but so fragile in his sleep? Maybe if he looked like that all the time, he wouldn't be criticized. Haha, I'm talking. I sigh and start to walk back home. Yeah, it was down the street, but I had no motivation right now. I don't care when I get home or how. Honestly, I just want sleep in my own bed. And it's not like Kaken will even notice I left. That sounds about right, kiddo. What? There was a voice? I frantically look around, but no one is here. No one is outside right now. Who's there? I stutter out. Calm down. I'm in your head, idiot. Like anyone would actually want to talk to you in person, the voice chuckled. You're probably right, I muttered out. No, kid. I am right. I'm always right, the voice laughed again. I nodded. I'm talking to a little voice in my head. I've never had a voice that would actually speak to me. Usually I would just fight with my own thoughts. But this was like it was its own person. Although it sounded like me. Hey, you quirkless buck. You're bucking boring to hang with. You think too much, and you're too quiet. Bucking entertain me. Or I'll entertain you, the voice continued. I'm sorry, how would you like me to entertain you? I mutter out again. Damn. You're even more annoying when talking. You know what, just shut the hell up and stop bucking thinking too. You're so damn annoying. I can understand why Kasi Sihan doesn't ever want to talk or hang out with you, the voice was stern. I know. I muttered and entered my quiet house. I walked up to my room and closed my eyes. Worthless piece of shit, you're just going to sleep. No wonder no one has no faith in you. You're ugly, you're going to get fat if you keep laying around. What's the point in becoming a hero if you're just going to sleep? Maybe you are just worthless piece of shit. No energy, you probably would get tired easily, huh? Because you eat and lay around too much. Bucking ugly piece of shit, get the hell up and entertain me. No wonder you're hated. Where's mother, huh? Oh, she probably left you too. Because you're quirkless. And that's why you have no father nor friends. The voice rambled, insulting me. You're right, I am ugly and fat B, but I can still become a hero. Kid, you're useless. Worthless, you have no meaning, no friends, you lack a family, you're fat, you're ugly. You're quirkless, delusional, the voice continued. Why has this voice just popped up into my head? I want it to stop. But everything it's saying I want to believe, I feel like I have to believe it. The voice sounds like me, so it's more believable. What is happening? What's wrong with me? Am I going insane? There's no way. This voice is so annoying. Why was I talking to a voice inside my head? I'm going insane. I laughed out loud and yelled. I'm really going insane. Sounds about right, kid. Shut up, I yelled. Me? Shut up? You've got to be kidding, you can't shut yourself up, retard. What are you, stupid? How is a quirkless wannabe like you going to get into Tui High? I don't know. I mutter. I don't can know. I close my eyes and hope that I can sleep. And to my surprise, the voice didn't come back while I slept. Katsuki's POV. I sat up, I'm on the couch. Damn, that's right, I let the damn nerd sleep in my room. Is he still bucking sleeping? I stand and walk to my room, my bed is empty. Did he leave? He's supposed to stay here. Idiot. I leave and walk to Dika's house. I personally don't want the nerd to stay or be anywhere near me. But if that damned hag finds out the Deku wasn't with me, she'll yell, and yell, and yell, and it's so goddamn annoying. I walk up to his house and open the door. If it's not locked, then he's probably here. I looks around, then walk up to his room. The door's open. And it's so boring in here, his walls are just white, his desk has nothing but papers and books. I walk over and looks at the books and paper. Nothing interesting. Just a few years ago his room was covered in all my things. What happened? I shake my head, then look at Deku. He looks terrible. Well, he's always looked terrible. I wonder if his wound hurts. MHHH. I place my hand on his shoulder a bit roughly. I gotta wake him up anyways and bring his back to my house. Ah, well, we could stay here. But it's so bucking boring. NGH, Deku groaned. Wake up, nerd. I yelled slightly as I grip his shoulder. His eyes opened quickly. Kakin, that hurts. He screamed out. I didn't think much of it until he grabbed my arm and pushed it away. Don't touch me, Deku yelled and glared at me. I chuckled some. Damn, calm down, nerd. Why are you so angry? It's not like I care. But he has no actually reason to be angry. Leave, he growled at me. Deku, you're supposed to be at my house. He acting different. I don't care. Just leave, he yelled. I growl at him. You want a challenge, nerd? What can you do, you quirkless hitch? He got quiet after that and looked down. He only shrugged with one shoulder, he couldn't move the other. But he's been acting different. Well, whatever. I grab him by his shoulder and drag him out of bed. We're going tea. I was cut off by a blood-curdling scream. I quickly let go and Deku fell to the ground, covering his shoulder. The buck is wrong with you, Deku? It didn't look that bad, but all I did was wrap it. I didn't pay attention to the wound per se. Oh shit, it's bleeding. I kneel down. Obviously to help as he groans on the ground. Deku. Stay away, he screamed as his voice cracked. STA, he went to repeat himself, but he started coughing. Shit. Not one of his damn coughing fits. Although it shouldn't be too bad. Deku. Let me help. I went to sit him up. But he backed away. Damn it, you worthless piece of shit. I yelled at him. Though he would surrender to me yelling at him like he usually did. But he continued to cough and back away. Saint stay away. He coughed excessively more. Then all of a sudden he gasped and coughed up blood. Shit, I thought to myself. I don't know what to do. I've never actually experienced one of his coughing fits. I stepped back, not able to think of what I should do to help. His coughing died down, and he slowly stood up. I went to step towards him. But he yelled and quickly walked to the bathroom that he locked himself in. What he yelled at me surprised me. It was so weird to me that he had said my name. I haven't heard him say it since we were kids. Go away, Katsuki, is what he yelled at me. That bucking nerd is so annoying. Izuku's POV. I went to sleep. And I think I was asleep for about an hour or two, I'm not sure. But it felt nice to sleep in my own bed. It's not like it's been a while since I have been in my own bed. But I find my bed more comfortable than other people's. Like Kachin's bed was nice and it was warm, but I prefer my bed. Well, after a bit, I felt something grab my shoulder, not too hard, but it hurt. I didn't think much of it, so I groaned. But then all of a sudden the grip was tight and dug into my flesh. It hurt so bad. He yelled at me too. Wake up, nerd. Of course. Kakin was here to wake me. But the grip hurt, and it was tight. Kakin, that hurts. I didn't think much of it. But he wouldn't pull away, so I pushed his arm away from my shoulder. Get away from me. I yelled and glared at him. He literally wrapped this wound. He should know how bad it is. But of course he probably didn't care. Of course he doesn't care. Who would care about you? Now stop being a bucking hussy and grow up. And now the voice is back. Now I'm even more upset, angry even. Damn, calm down, nerd. Why are you so angry? What is he, stupid? He grabbed my injured shoulder and woke me up, plus he's calling me names. I don't even want to deal with Kakin right now. I'm not in the mood. Leave. I simply said. Well, in a slight growl, I want him to go away. Deku, you're supposed to be at my house. This idiot, I don't care where I'm supposed to be. Idiot, just bucking, listen to him. Be like the obedient hitch you should be. Be lucky someone actually thought of you, or maybe he didn't. And he's doing it for himself. The voice laughed. This voice is so annoying. I'm annoying? Shut your hitch ass up. This, Katsuki, probably only came to get you so he won't get yelled at. He probably could care less about your well-being. Now get your lazy ass out of bed, you dumb prick, the voice rambled on. And I'm trying to ignore it. I'm annoyed by Kaken and this voice in my damn head. I don't care. Just leave, I yell at him. I usually don't mind his presence. But I don't want it right now. But of course Kaken has to argue with everything. He thinks everything is a challenge. You want a challenge, nerd? What can you do, you quirkless hitch? While Blondie's got some sense, the voice laughed. So what can you do, you quirkless hitch? The voice taunted. Absolutely nothing. So I just shrugged, although I couldn't move my injured shoulder. It hurt so much it'd be easy to ignore pain, but my skin was incinerated and now it's just flesh. Stitches can even heal it. My should has been in so much pain since I woke up. And now I have to deal with it more. Kaken began to speak again. We're going to. I cut him off. He had grabbed my shoulder tighter than he did before. His fingers dug into my flesh. The bandage felt tight around my bare shoulder that was underneath. I couldn't help but scream, it hurt so bad. I screamed loud enough that the whole neighborhood could have heard it. But Kaken let me go. And I fell on the floor and backed away, of course. I looked at the bandage that my hand covered and it was bleeding. A lot. The buck is wrong with you, Deku? The buck is wrong me? What the buck is wrong with you? I'm in too much pain to argue right now. Why am I so pathetic? Why are you so pathetic? Why don't you man the buck up, hitch? How annoying. So Kaken wants to hurt me, and now he wants to help? Deku, he said calmly, surprisingly. Stay away, I don't want him near me. He wants to hurt me, then he can, but I will not. Will not accept help from him after he hurt me without realizing it. He is so dumb. He doesn't think before his actions. Why do I have to spend a week with him? Why couldn't I go with Mom? She didn't want you to go with her, she left to get away from you. You'll mean nothing to her, of course. She wants nothing to do with me, I'm her quirkless son, like she'd want a son like me. After I yelled stay away, my chest hurt, and my throat felt scratchy, and of course here comes one of my coughing fits. I hate myself. I shouldn't have screamed before, and I say yelled, but I screamed stay away. He kneeled down to me, I guess he wanted to help. But no, I went to repeat myself, but I had started to have one of my coughing fits. And they hurt like hell. I was unable to breathe, the chest felt like it was collapsing. My chest hurt. My heart hurt. Why am I always in pain? Whether it's physical or mental. I can't help but cough more. Then I gagged while coughing. I gasped painfully, trying to get air into my system. But I coughed again. And blood came up, and not like a little. Like just a small puddle of blood. One of these days my lungs will fill up with blood. And I'll suffocate in it. But at least I won't have to deal with it anymore. This is hell. But before I coughed up the blood, Kaken tried to help. Deku. Let me help. I didn't want his help, so I backed away. Then he yelled at me the words I already know and believe. Damn it, you worthless piece of shit. He doesn't have to rub it in. I know I'm worthless, I know I'm a piece of shit, but there's nothing I can do about it. My chest hurts and I'm still coughing. I just want him to stay away. Saint S, stay away. That all I could stutter out. It hurts so much, and I can't stop coughing. And that when I painfully gasped and coughed out blood. Now my coughing has calmed. I am so dizzy, so I slowly stand. I stumble a little and run out of my room and straight to the bathroom. And I yell again. I yelled. Go away, Katsuki. And I closed the door and locked it. Then I fall into the floor and pant. I'm so tired, I'm dizzy, I've lost so much blood, I want to die, I want to sleep my life away. It felt weird to say his name like that. You're so talentless, you probably can even do that right, Do what right? I mumble. Kill yourself, dumb buck. I can do that. Can you now? Why don't you show me, prove to me you can do it? I shouldn't. It's not like anyone would care. So do it, satisfy yourself. Slit your wrists, come on, do it. You've hidden the blade under your sink. I know you've thought about it before. But slitting my wrists won't make me feel better. I mutter, but I guess a bit too loud. Deku, who are you talking to? Don't do anything stupid. Said who? Come on, just try it. Just ignore Kaken, he doesn't really care. I sighed and turned to my left. I opened the sink cabinet, and in the very back corner was a sharp razor blade. Maybe you're right, I muttered. Who are you taking to? I'll blow this damn door down. Deku, open up. Kaken continued to yell. But did he really care? I grabbed the blade and held it against my wrist. Maybe the pain will feel nice. It will, kid. Now just swipe it. All your worries and pains will go away while the blood flows. I closed my eyes and pressed the blade down. Chapter 8. I felt it as it pierced into my skin. I swiped it, feeling my skin open. I opened my eyes as just a little bit of blood began to seep and drip from the cut. It didn't hurt as bad as I thought it was going to. It actually felt nice. I told you, kid. Katsuki continued to pound on the door. I sighed and got up with no actual motivation to do anything. I put the blade in my pocket and unlocked the door, opening it. Stop yelling. I didn't do anything. I looked down and sighed again. Just go home, Kaken, please. You keep putting. I felt hot tears roll down my freckled cheeks. Putting me through pain, I am tired of it, so please leave. Kaken stares for a second. I glanced up. No. If you stay here, I'll stay here. I'm tired of your dumbass. And he grabbed my wrist, showing the one cut. You're unstable. And talking to yourself like a bucking maniac. You need help. Plus, if your mom finds out that you weren't with me the whole time, she'll punish you, is that right? I mock him, glaring daggers at him. Deku. You need to stop this. This isn't you. What the hell has been going on with you? The Deku I know is a hussy who stutters, who's too afraid to hold a knife. What the hell, Deku? What's been going on that I don't know about? Why does it matter to you? I feel my heart rate increase, then I feel it drop. Why does it matter to you? Never mind, I'll stay with you. I'm too tired for this. In seconds I feel all the energy from my body drained. I feel like completely giving up. It's that guy's Quirk. Wow. He's strong. Honestly, I don't mind being quirkless anymore, so I don't care if my quirks manifest or not. I really want to hurt not just myself but someone. That's dangerous though, I shouldn't. I feel a grip around my wrist as I get dragged out of my house and down the street. I just let him pull me along. I stare aimlessly at the ground. That's a pole, I hear Kaken yell. Watch where you're going, nerd. Then he continues to drag me along. I like that pain. I kinda want to feel it again. I have the blade in my pocket, it'll be okay. No, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to, but I can't help it. The feeling of hate, anxiety, loneliness, sadness, anger. I don't know how to deal with this feeling. It's a bit too consuming. Kaken dragged me to his room and threw me against the ground and yelled at me to stay there. I complied and sat there like I was an obedient pet. Truth be told, I just feel utterly exhausted and I don't want to get up at all. I lay down and stare at the floor. I want to hurt someone, I really do. I shouldn't. No, I want to hurt myself. Chapter 9. This guy's quirk really puts a toll onto someone. I do believe that what he said about people not being able to handle the side effects of his quirk are true. I lay back against the floor and stare at the ceiling. I feel a soft pounding against my forehead, a headache. I close my eyes and contemplate whether I should get up and leave again or stay and listen to Kaken's words. I turn onto my side and glance at the one scar upon my wrist. I don't regret it at all. I reach into my pocket, grabbing the blade I once held before. It's so small yet so sharp and dangerous. I press the sharp cold blade against my wrist and swipe slowly, watching as little bits of blood starts to dribble out. I do it again and again, until my wrist looks as if red paint was dropped upon it. I let out a weak giggle and close my eyes, sliding the blade back into my pocket. I told you it isn't bad. You can't feel that pain. Can you? And soon you'll be addicted to the wonderful unnecessary pain you'll inflict on yourself. Do you regret it? HM? I ignore the voice. He makes me feel like I'm going insane. Is it normal to have a voice in your head that isn't your own? Maybe if I told Kaken about the villain attack he'd believe me. I close my eyes and drift into a very annoying sleep. The voice won't ever go away, will it? After I drifted off, I remember Katchen's yelling. I can't remember what he said, but he sounded worried? No, that can't be it. Katchen's too hot-headed for that, maybe angry, yeah. Eventually the rest of the day had passed, and then nightfall came. Katsuki had cleaned and wrapped Izukus' injured wrist and made dinner for them, but Izuku had stayed asleep, which had irked Katsuki a bit, but he just put the leftovers away until he does wake up. Before Katsuki went to bed, he had picked Izuku up and moved him to the side and made a small pallet for him on the ground. Eventually, when he was done, he picked Izuku back up and placed him down, and stood straight staring at the newly depressed boy. Katsuki sighed and grumbled a few curse words and got himself ready for bed and laid down, glancing at the time. 20:33. He sighed and closed his eyes, falling asleep. Night had passed and Katsuki was downstairs watching TV whilst Izuku began to slowly wake up. MHH. I stretched and looked around a bit. Oh yeah, Katchen's room. I glanced at my wrist to find it bandaged. Well, I certainly didn't do that. Maybe Kaken was worried. I mean, he made me a little pallet bed. I nuzzled my face into the pillow. It's soft, very soft. I laid there for a bit. I don't want to get up. I begin to close my eyes once again. Stupid nerd, it's time to get your happy ass up, Kaken yelled. I'm awake, I mumbled, as I yawned, keeping my tired eyes closed. Get your ass up. I'm training today and I don't want to leave your dumb ass alone, he yelled again. I don't want to get up, I whined. Get your ass up. He grabbed my arm roughly and jerked me up. Oh wow, I cried out. That was my bad arm. I placed my hand underneath my wound from the villain attack and back away. That hurt, I mumbled. It'll hurt worse if you don't fucking listen. I nodded in response and stood straight, looking down. Kaken began to go through his closet, where he threw a zip-up hoodie at me and a pair of shorts. We're working out today. I have to get ready for the UA exams, and if you want to fucking go to, then you might as well train with me, you quirkless buck. I glanced at him holding the clothes. I'm not going to UA. I don't really care about that anymore. Since when? He yelled. I shrugged. What's the point in trying when you know you're worthless? I mumbled. WH what? Kaken stuttered while he stuttered. I'll train with you, but I don't want to be a hero anymore. There's no point. I have no chance, isn't that right? I glanced at him, slowly taking my shirt off, putting on the zip-up hoodie, doing the same with my pants, and putting on the shorts. He has bigger hips than me. I pulled the drawstring and tightened them. Let's go. I slipped on my shoes and walked downstairs. Kaken stood there baffled by my words. I guess he realized I finally broke even. My idol, the number one hero, said I can't become a hero, so why try? Chapter 10. I sat in the sand as I watched Kaken train by himself. His quirk is so strong, it's cool too. I feel like it's too destructive for him to be a hero, but I'm sure he'll make it work. He's smart. Deku, come run with me. Oh? I slowly stood and walked over. We run until I say stop, Katsuki grumbled as he began to run. Why does he want me to do this? I follow a bit behind, running with him. I should probably take it easy considering my arm still needs to heal, but it doesn't hurt that bad right now. It's kinda numb. I gave up long time ago, and got a good lecture from him after. But he ran up and down the beach for a good hour. I could do it, and besides I don't need to exercise. It's not like I could become a hero anyways, and my lungs are bad, so maybe I can't do it. Quirk or not, it doesn't matter. I glanced at Katsuki as he walked towards me. Lazy nerd? He mumbled before sitting next to me, panting. I don't want the exercise. I don't really need it. I sighed. You'll need it if you want to become a hero. He looked down and messed with the sand beneath us. I know, but I don't really care. Lazy, he mumbled. Okay, and? You're better off bucking dead Deku. I stared at him for a few seconds before standing. Yeah. I know. I mumbled before walking away. I heard as he quickly stood and turned around. But I ignored and quickly ran off before he could chase behind. I'm not sure where to go. But it definitely not home. Besides, no even wants me there. I run to the park Kaken and I used to play at when we were kids. I pant softly, letting out weak coughs as I sit beneath the slide. I calm my breathing and lay down, relaxing. Ka-chan here is right. You ran to be alone, so you could be lazy. Damn, you really are better of dead. All you want to do is sleep. Shut up. You can't make me, you worthless low-life hitch. I'm sorry to inform your pathetic ass, but you're worth nothing but dirt. Shut up. No. Shut up, I growl louder. Can you make me though? HM? Lowly. Shut up, I yell, placing my hands upon my head, gripping my hair. Baby's gonna cry? HM. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I yell, unaware of where I am. Just shut up. I yell more, hitting my palms against my head. Deku, I hear a gravely voice yell. A one and only two. I tense and go quiet. Who are you yelling at? There's no one here, he grumbled, walking closer. Ka-th the voice. I mumbled plainly, then realizing what I had said. That's not I. I stutter, knowing he thinks I'm crazy. The voice? In your head? You're telling yourself to shut up? Are you retarded? He insulted me. I tucked my head down and shook my head. Would he believe me? Would he believe me if I told him about that villain attack? No. Besides, you're too hussy to tell him anyways. You fear to ask. You fear to speak. You fear to open up. And you fear the truth. Isn't that right? Yes, it is, I mumbled, replying. Deku? Kaken asked as I ignored him. You know that you'll fail at everything you do. Everything. I know, I'm sorry, I whimper back. How many more times will you fail and buck up before you fix everything? Remember how pathetic you are. Rattle me this, Deku. When will you never not be worthless? How much do you actually deserve? I don't know, I die nothing. Tears form as I kept my head hidden in my arms. Deku, answer me. Kaken screamed and turned me over as the tears ran down my cheeks. Who are you talking to? He screamed louder as I flinched. Yeah, who are you talking to? Is his little Deku becoming delusional? You're insane, you're insane, you're insane, so creepy. How is anyone gonna love you now that you're a freak, a random kid, talking and screaming to himself? Disgusting. I'm sane, I'm not gross, I'm a freak, I don't want no. No, I'm not. Izuku mumbled to himself, ignoring Katsuki pleas for him to respond back to him. Izuku let his waterfall of tears stream down his face as his eyes stare blankly at nothing. Who are you talking to, Deku? Answer me, what is wrong with you? Katsuki yelled in a more worrisome voice than an usual angry one. Ka-chan, make it go away, it hurts. Izuku closed his eyes, trying to block out the insulting voice within his head. What? Make what go away? What hurts? He panicked, then looked away. You need help, you're bucking insane, Katsuki mumbled, picking Izuku up and walking to a hospital. No, I'm not insane, it's the voice, I don't want, no, I'm not insane, I'm not, why is everyone calling me insane? Izuku gave a soft giggle as tears fell faster from his eyes. The voice is making you look more insane, it's just you thinking. You're screaming at yourself, Katsuki mumbled, walking. There's a voice, believe me, stop, just believe me, please, it's the Quirk, Kaken. Katsuki froze as Izuku cried. The Quirk, he grumbled sternly. What? Quirk, he growled. Villains, the villains, I can't remember whose or his Quirk, it's I can't remember, Kaken, I can't remember. Izuku cried more, hitting his palms roughly against his temples. It's the Quirk, not me. He cried out in pain, hitting his palms against his head harder. Katsuki was quick to stop him. Okay. I get it. But you're going insane from it. No, it's the Quirk, he mumbled. Katsuki sighed and started walking back to his home. I won't take you to the hospital, he grumbled. Really? Thank you, Izuku mumbled. I won't take you. If you actually decide to listen. Got it? Katsuki threatened. Okay, I'll listen, I hate the hospital, Izuku pleaded. Katsuki nodded and walked back home with a soft, trembling Izuku within his arms. The voice, what does it say to you? Why don't you ignore it? Katsuki mumbled, walking up to his house. It's not that easy, Kaken. I tried to, I really do try to, I can't. I can't, I just. Calm down, stop being so panicky, Katsuki growled. I'm sorry, I just. Izuku went silent as Katsuki looked down at him. You what, nerd? He's right. Izuku mumbled as tears fell, rolling down his freckled cheeks. Who? Katsuki grumbled, laying him upon the couch. The voice, he's right, He was interrupted. Okay, just shut up, you're so bucking annoying, there's no voice, there's no quirk, you're delusional, bucking insane, get over it. Katsuki growled, having enough of Izuku's panicked rambling. Izuku got quiet and nodded. Just ignore the voice. You're just bucking, going insane. Imagine that. He mumbled, walking to the kitchen. The quirkless wonder is going insane. That must really suck. Can't be a hero if you're in a psych ward. Katsuki rambled, getting a glass of water for himself. Chapter 11. A few days passed as Izuku would stay on the couch. Not much movement came from him. Katsuki would sometimes drag him along to the beach so he could train and keep an eye on the almost lifeless Greenet. As of right now, Izuku laid upon the couch staring at the TV. Kaken, he mumbled with a low voice. Katsuki sat on the ground below him, scrolling through his phone. What nerd, he grumbled and glanced back at Izuku. I don't feel good, he replied. Katsuki growled and rolled his eyes. Whose fault is that? You never eat, drink, or sleep. You never want to do bucking anything, you lazy buck. I am sorry, he mumbled and tucked his head down into the couch. You need to shower today. Actually, do it right now. And after I'm making you bucking eat. You'll feel better after, I'm sure. Katsuki sighed. I don't want to get up today, he mumbled, softly exhaling. You say that every day. Katsuki stood and picked Izuku up into his arms. I'm tired of hearing it. It's bucking annoying. Izuku looked up at him and nodded, purposely going limp in his arms. You're so bucking lazy you can't prop your bucking head up. Katsuki grumbled. I have no energy, Izuku replied back. The blonde rolled his eyes, setting Izuku on the countertop, and started a bath. What the buck is going on with you? It's bucking annoying. You can't be so dependent on people now. Someday no one will be there to do things for you. Got that? What are you gonna do when I decide I'm tired of your lazy shit? The blonde spoke, turning the water to a lukewarm. I don't know, perish? He mumbled and sighed. Kaken. You what, Deku? Katsuki sighed, saving Izuku the stress of him yelling. I feel sick, I don't feel good, Izuku mumbled. The blonde growled. Get undressed. And get in the tub. I'll make you some bucking food. Okay? He said, leaving the bathroom with a ready bath for Izuku. Izuku slowly got off the counter and got undressed, looking at his thin body. Why am I so ugly, it's chub, he mumbled, pressing at his stomach dip and bony-like hips. Chub, he mumbled, getting into the tub slowly and sitting back, relaxing. He stared at the dripping faucet as his mind went blank. Izuku stayed in the same position for almost half an hour before Katsuki walked in with one of Izuku's favorites, Katsudan. Deku, the blonde grumbled before sitting by the tub and setting the bowl on the edge. Eat it, he sighed, handing Izuku chopsticks. The Greenet looked at him and slowly took the chopsticks. Sorry, he mumbled and slowly took the bowl. He ate small bites at a time. It was almost as if the food was disgusting for him. He never felt hungry, let alone tired. He just feels blank. Very blank. Like there was nothing to be around for. Like giving up and perishing was the only option. But then he had Katsuki, taking care of him. The blonde watched him slowly eat. Izuku ate about half in a very slow manner. He placed the bowl upon the side of the tub and sank into the water, his head staying afloat. Done? Katsuki looked at him, picking up the bowl. The smaller boy sighed and nodded a bit. Katsuki left. Wash your hair. I'll be back in a sec, Katsuki yelled from down the hall. Izuku laid there staring at the ceiling before finally sitting up and washing his hair. Izuku was rinsing his hair when Katsuki walked back and stared at him. "You're hopeless. You know that," Katsuki grumbled. "Yeah, I already know that. You're not the only one who tells me that," Izuku mumbled, laying back against the tub. "Get out of the tub. Your clothes are in my room. Come downstairs after, or I'll beat your ass." Katsuki left again, walking downstairs. Izuku groaned and laid there contemplating whether to get up or not. But he knew Katsuki would have no remorse or hesitation when it came to beating him. Izuku drained the tub and slowly stood up, grabbing a towel, wrapping it around his thin, pale hips. He dragged his feet against the wood floor, making his way to Katsuki's bedroom. He slowly dried his body and got dressed, after then drying his hair. He let out a low sigh and sat on the ground, already tired from doing a normal daily task. Izuku looked around and shrugged. Laying on the floor, he stared upon the ceiling as his mind went blank. No care in the world if Katsuki would beat his ass or not. Time had passed as Katsuki entered the room to see Izuku on the floor. An emotionless face, dull eyes staring the wall down as if it were a staring contest. "Why, nerd? What did I say?" he growled, but got no response. Katsuki furrowed his brows and squatted down, picking up his light-weighted friend. "Deku." Izuku hummed softly, purposely going limp into his arms. Katsuki shook his head in disappointment. He sighed and walked downstairs to the living area, where he set Izuku up straight on the couch. After so, he sat by him and changed the TV channel to something more interesting. Izuku groaned and closed his eyes, letting his body fall to the side. Katsuki glanced down at him and raised a brow. "Deku, sit up," he growled at the boy, whose head was now in his lap. Katsuki got no response back, which had him pissed off. "Deku." The boy responded. "Get up." "Not enough energy," the small boy mumbled, dozing off. Katsuki groaned and sighed, rolling his eyes. "The buck is wrong with you," he mumbled. A few hours passed while Izuku watched the news. Not much happening, but it's kept his thoughts away. Katsuki had fallen asleep a little while after letting Izuku lay his head in his lap. Katsuki was asleep, that was until the house phone rang. Izuku blinked a few times in response and glanced up at Katsuki. Kakin the phone," Izuku mumbled. Katsuki yawned and moved Izuku's head, standing up. Yeah, I hear it." Izuku nodded and went back to watching TV. Katsuki walked to the kitchen and answered the phone. "Bakugo residence here," he grumbled. Katsuki listened to the women speak. He was at a loss of words. He peeked around the corner and looked at Izuku and furrowed his brows. He then looked at the TV, in which Izuku had been watching what Katsuki was just told. Chapter 12. Breaking news. A Japanese airline, Nikko, crash landed before arrival to Shinagawa, Tokyo. The engine suddenly gave out, leaving the plane to go down with a crash. "We have a reporter on site. We switch it over to you, Hinato." The camera switched site. First we saw a man at a desk, now a messy, smoky, eerie plane crash site. "We're current flying over to the crash, where there are a ton of paramedics on site. A crash like this is devastating. There were no signs of an explosion, and with luck like that, there are sure to be survivors." There was a pause whilst the camera panned over the devastating sight. "Look at that, the front is completely obliterated. And the wings are no longer even intact. Jinso, do you have news about anyone? What do you think about this crash? I'm switching to you." The camera angle switched back to the man at the desk as he began speaking. "Hinato, plane crashes are already devastating enough. But looking at this, even without an explosion, it's still a bad crash. And it's very unfortunate. I do, however, have numbers of people." "Numbers, Jinso?" the other reporter asked, confused. "There were a total of 57 people on the plane. There are 4 dead, 38 with minor injuries, 11 with major injuries, and 4 with no injuries at all. Both the pilot and co-pilot are dead, and 2 civilians." Izuku stared at the TV, not noticing the connection between the call and the news. Katsuki furrowed his brows. Katsuki hadn't a clue on how to break the news to Izuku. They hadn't mentioned it on the TV. But the pilot, co-pilot, Inko Midoriya, and another civilian, older than anyone else on the plane, Hidari Fukawa, were reported dead on sight. Katsuki walked back into the living room and sat on the couch looking down. Is Deku? I'm sorry, Izuku. Katsuki mumbled as Izuku looked up at him confused. HM? Why? He stared at the distressed blonde. You have no reason to be sorry, so don't be sorry also. Izuku paused and pointed at the TV. That's the plane Mom and Auntie were supposed to take back home. But it crashed. He mumbled. Ah, Deku, about that. It's sad they're four dead. Izuku sighed and looked up at him. HM? What were you saying? Izuku asked. Deku, they were on that plane. Katsuki sighed. Oh? Izuku sat up slowly. Only four were dead, so it's unlie. Izuku went silent as Katsuki shook his head. Deku, I'm sorry, why you look your mom, she. Katsuki looked down, furrowing his brows. She didn't make it. He mumbled. My mom? Are you sure? That's Kaken, my mom knows she's not dead. That's it, there were only four dead. That's unlikely, Izuku stood getting worked up. Katsuki looked at him, and then shook his head. The call was from the hospital in Tokyo. He stared at the smaller boy, the one that would lack to even sit up on his own, finally standing. Katsuki was surprised. He knew Izuku would be upset. But not denial. He assumed Izuku would become more lifeless than he was already being, not stand up, let alone on his own without issue. The boy who'd stand and let his legs give out, now standing without issue. Deku, she's? What about Auntie Mitsuki? Is she okay? Is she? Deku, my mom is fine. She only had minor injuries. Just sit down. The greenette furrowed his brows as his tears began to overflow. My mom really didn't survive. Are you sure? Izuku whimpered out, dropping to the floor. Kaken, it hurts. He cried out, placing his hand against his chest, gripping his shirt. It hurts, Kaken. He cried louder. Katsuki froze and stared at the sobbing boy, and actual emotion came out of him. Deku, I can't help. I hate this, why am I so unlucky, why does this world hate me so much? He yelled as his voice cracked. He tucked his head down, shutting his eyes tight. Why? Deku. Nothing I do is right, there's Ugh. He groaned as his tears fell faster. Katsuki stood and walked over to the broken boy and picked him up gently. Okay? You'll be fine. He sighed and walked upstairs to his room, where he laid Izuku down on his bed. Rest, please. Izuku stared at the taller blonde as more of his tears fell. I'm alone, he mumbled before looking away and closing his eyes. I'm alone, he quietly repeated to himself. A few hours passed as Katsuki left Izuku alone, locked in the bedroom. He had a general feeling that he'd try and leave, so he sat by the door. After the few hours passed, Izuku had woken up. He ended up crying himself to sleep. Izuku stared at the plain white ceiling, thinking. He felt as his chest tightened and his stomach curled. Tears welled his eyes up once again. The pale boy turned onto his side and curled up, tucking his head into the bed as he cried out. He felt regret, like he hadn't done enough for his mother. As if he could have done more. He had the feeling of guilt, like if he told her not to go she'd still be alive. He felt as if her death was his fault. Izuku sobbed more as he began to cough and gasp. Katsuki walked in and over to the curled-up boy and sat him up. Deku, sit up, hands above your head, calm down, he grumbled, sitting the crying boy up, moving his frail arms above his head. Breathe through your nose, out your mouth, he mumbled, watching as the sobbing boy calmed down and wiped his tears. I'm sorry. You're fine. He stood and walked to the door. There's food downstairs for you. Come eat. Izuku nodded and slowly got up, making his way downstairs. He sat at the table looking at the food before him. I'm not really hungry, Kaken, he mumbled and looked at him. Eat. You weigh as much as paper, the blonde grumbled, glaring at the smaller boy. Oh, Izuku looked at the food again and began eating. Katsuki forced Izuku to eat all of it, and he forced Izuku to go on a walk, just to get outside a bit. They went to the beach in which Izuku watched Katsuki train his quirk. Chapter 13. Months began to pass, as Izuku had spent most of his time at Katsuki's house, being carefully watched by Katsuki and Mitsuki. His downfall in mental health had been worrying for Mitsuki while Katsuki started spending more time training for the UA entrance exam. It had just been around the corner. Katsuki had given up bringing Izuku along, and Mitsuki had been stressed out constantly watching Izuku. She's been on the verge of asking him to leave back to his house. Months had already passed, and he should be on his feet again, and not mourning over his mother still. She understood how it felt to lose a loved one, but she thought he's been overly dramatic about it. She knows that asking him to leave would mean living at his old house. Taxes still get paid and the house is already paid off. Mitsuki would supply food there if he needed any, because he shouldn't have to get a job at the age he is. The entrance exam finally came around and Katsuki was more than ready. He knew he'd pass either way. Izuku laid on the couch of Mitsuki's house as she walked over to him and kneeled down. "Izuku-hun, I know you're awake, look at me," she whispered as Izuku glanced at her. He hummed in response. "We've had this talk before, and you've done nothing about the issue. I told you that if you're going to stay here you'll need to help around the house, and you haven't done anything," she explained. "Oh, why, yeah, I'm sorry," he mumbled inside. "Remember the agreement we made?" And no." Mitsuki sighed and pinched the bridge of her nose. "If you aren't going to help you'll need to leave. I don't want to make you leave, but you're not doing anything, honey." Izuku sat up and nodded. "I'm sorry. Like I promised, I'll provide food and continue to pay your house bills, but I can't have you here if you're not going to do anything." She sighed and stood. "I'll go pack my things." He stood and walked upstairs packing the few items that belonged to him. It's not the Izuku understood the issue, it's that the only thing that he can hear is the voice in his head, and the only thing that it's telling him is that he's not wanted there anymore. He believes it, and if he's not wanted, he'll just leave before they hate him. It's not like Katsuki wanted him there anyways. And he'd be surprised if they were to go check on him anyways. Izuku left without saying goodbye and walked back to his house. The house that he hadn't entered in months. The house that fills him with regret. He entered and looked around at the dusty location, as it hasn't been touched since his mother left for her trip. He sighed and closed the door, setting his stuff by the door. He walked to his plain room and laid on his bed. His desk was a bit dusty, but nothing much other than that. Katsuki's POV. "The entrance exam is already over and now I just have to wait for a response. I know I passed. It wasn't that difficult. Although I'm generally surprised Deku gave up on his dream. Although he could try and get into the support class. He's smart. Probably he doesn't do anything but bucking lay around. He lacks personal bucking hygiene, and he won't do anything unless he's told to. He's two handfuls. And I'll be busy with school soon so I can't watch him, meaning my mother will, and she doesn't have time for that. Although Deku's lungs haven't really been acting up, probably because he doesn't do anything. I walk up to my house and enter looking around. Deku isn't on the couch. Is Deku showering? I walk towards the kitchen, where in fact she was. Oh no, he's not. Okay. Then where is he? Is he laying in my room? I turned and started walking to the stairs. No, he's not. I had him go back to his home. I paused. He has no one there to watch him there. Why would you send him? Why would you make him? Why? Katsuki, he doesn't do anything here. I know he's your friend, but he's lazy and being overdramatic, and you know it. He's old enough and can take care of himself. I already told him I'd pay for his things. But he can't just lay around here. I don't have time for him. She sighed. I shook my head and left, walking to Deku's house. Deku doesn't have the energy to take care of himself. He'd probably lay there until he'd die. I don't necessarily care that he's not living at my house. I'd just rather not check on him one day, and he be dead. That's not really that it'd suck. He's also not mentally stable. I mean, I knew this, but at night it's just weird. It's not like a downfall unstable. He bucking talks to himself and shit. And just randomly laughs. Not loud, but loud enough for me to hear. A few months ago, when he mentioned voices in the Quirk, I thought it'd wear off on its own, but it obviously hasn't. I do, however, regret calling him insane. And I probably should have taken it more seriously. But that was a while ago. Now all I can do is try and help. Or maybe listen to what he has to say, that is, if I have the patience. I enter his house and look around. It's dusty as all hell in here, the buck. He just walked through this. I look around and walk to Deku's room and slowly open the door, and there he is. Doing nothing. Deku. I watch him jump and look at me. Why are you why yo may I'll leave? He stuttered and questioned me to leave. No. Get your ass up. We're cleaning. But I don't want to. Get up, I yell, watching as he got off his ass quickly. If you're living here on your own, the most you can do is clean up around here. And then you need to get your school uniform from the high school you're going to. I'm not going to high school, I'm not going to any school. Very bucking funny, Deku. I'll just get bullied. I don't want to get bullied. I don't want to be made fun of for not having a quirk. That's not fun, but you wouldn't understand because you have a great quirk. He yelled at me. He's being aggressive. Kay, calm the buck down. You still have. No, I'm not, and I won't. He walked past me and downstairs, panting heavily, letting out weak coughs and wheezes. He's crazy. I sighed and followed him. A few minutes passed as I let him calm down. I changed the subject to cleaning, in which he bucking responded with rolling his eyes and getting out cleaning supplies. I swept the floors while I let Deku do whatever the buck he wanted as long as it related to cleaning. A couple hours did pass as I had finished all the dusty-ass floors and most of the flat surfaces. I sighed and looked around. I haven't seen Deku once since we started cleaning, or if he had done anything. Where the buck is he, though? I looked around the house and then the upstairs room. I checked both bathrooms, and in the living area. I peeked inside his computer room, and he wasn't in any of the rooms. This bucking hitch really bucking left, didn't he? Deku, come out! I exhaled and looked around again. Well, there's only one other bucking room. This idiot really cleaned his room and both bathrooms, and that's it. Unless he's in his mom's old room, which would make sense. I walked towards his mother room and opened the door and looked around. There's newly broken glass, but I didn't hear it break. Chapter 14. Katsuki's POV. I look at the glass, then around the room. It's kinda cleaned, other than the glass. I look around a bit more, entering the room, and there's Deku. I can't really see him through the dark. I grab the extra broom in the room and start sweeping the glass up into a pile. Deku, get up. Okay? I didn't get a response back. Deku, I paused, hearing Deku's heavily labored breathing and desperate whispers. I turned on the light quickly, looking at him as he sat in the corner with wide eyes rocking back and forth. Tears were rolling down his face. His knees were pulled to chest as he hit the side of his head roughly with his palm. It was as if he had just seen his worst fear. I quickly walk over and grabs his hand and stop his rocking. Deku, calm down, what's wrong? He didn't stop whispering to himself. He whispered the same thing over and over again. Get it out of my head, get it out of my head. I looked at his arms. He had scratch marks running down his arms, little specks of blood aligning the welted marks. They also ran down his legs. I stopped his rocking and wiped the tears off his face. Deku, he wasn't responding at all. I sighed and sat back, making sure he wouldn't try and hurt himself. A few minutes passed as he calmed a bit. He looked at me. His eyes were still wide and panicked looking. Get it out, he mumbled, his mouth curled into a smile which, I may add, was bucking scary as all hell. I stood and backed up. Gee, get it out of my head. He yelled loudly as he began to laugh. He looked down and began to hit the side of his head again. Get it out. His expression turned to anger as well as his voice. Get it out of my head. How the hell am I supposed to help someone going insane? I pulled out my phone and called my mom. Katsuki? Mom, can you maybe? Get it out, Mom, make it shut up. Is that Izuku? Is he okay? No, can you just come over? Please, I don't know what to bucking do. My mom hung up on me. I looked at Deku as I stopped him from hitting his head again. I stopped his rocking and had him look at me. Deku, can you even hear me? I mumbled. Make it go away, get it out, make it go away, shut it up. He stared at me whimpering. Deku. Get it out. He not responsive, he's just bucking, mumbling random shit. I moved back and watched him until my mom got here. End POV. Mitsuki quickly ran into the Midoriya's household and into Inko's old room. She found a dissociated and disoriented Midoriya. She saw as Katsuki held Izuku's hands and kept him steady. She kneeled down by him and lifted his chin, having him look at her. She looked at his eyes and sighed. His pupils are so dilated. God damn it, Katsuki, do you know how? No, we were just cleaning and I found him here panicking. He's in his own bucking head, going bucking insane. Watch your language, she mumbled sternly. I'm going to knock him out. How? How don't? Katsuki, calm down, it's just pressing 2 pressure points on his neck, I won't hurt him. She mumbled and pressed both pressure points, watching as his eyes closed, and he fell limp. He'll be fine, he'll wake up in a few minutes, probably take him to his room and wait with him, okay? She stood and walked out and downstairs. Katsuki sighed and picked Izuku up in his arms and walked to his room, laying him upon his bed. Katsuki sat in Izuku's computer chair and waited until the smaller boy would wake up. He sighed as his mother entered the room with 2 glasses of water and set them on Izuku's desk. Give this to Izuku when he wakes, she mumbled and stood by the door. I'll be downstairs finishing the rest of the house. If he wakes up in panic again, call for me. She sighed and left the room. A few minutes passed as Izuku woke up. He looked around, then at Katsuki. Kaken? He mumbled. Izuku laid his head back down, letting his drowsiness take over. Deku, you're awake now? How are you feeling? Katsuki asked, worry laced within his voice. Stay awake, please, he mumbled, sitting Izuku up and handing him some water. Do you remember what happened? Katsuki bombarded him with questions of concern and curiosity. Izuku took a sip of water and looked down. I'm okay now, and I only remember a little after the glass broke after. Izuku stumbled over his sentence, began to panic as he attempted to explain his last panic. Deku, relax. You're okay. You're okay now. Katsuki grabbed his arm, forcing him into reality. Izuku looked at Katsuki in almost straight terror. It flew because of me, he mumbled as his eyes widened. Katsuki shook his head. What flew? The glass, I made it shatter, and how? He mumbled in a low whisper as his breath picked up. Deku, calm down, it's okay, Katsuki reassured. Damn, what happened to you? He mumbled, sitting back. Just go back to being happy and okay already, Deku. Izuku looked at him, gripping the cup among his frail hands. I want to be dead, I think. Katsuki's head shot up, staring at the frail boy. Excuse me? He grumbled. You think? You what? Izuku flinched in return. Don't say shit like that, don't say shit like that. You got it? Katsuki yelled. Izuku nodded and looked down. Okay. You understand, right? Katsuki lifted his chin, glaring at him. Why, yes, I understand, okay. His eyes filled with tears as he pulled his head away. I didn't mean to say that, okay? It's just slipped out. Izuku mumbled as tears spilled from his eyes. Katsuki shook his head and sat back against the chair. Why, you shouldn't say things like that, it's scary, okay? He mumbled, looking away. I got it, I'm sorry, oh, okay? Izuku sighed, thinking. A few silent minutes passed as Izuku asked a question. Why do you make me clean? Why do you make me go into that room? He mumbled, staring at the ceiling. Katsuki looked at him as he furrowed his brows. I didn't make you enter that room. And anyways, the buck you mean, why did I make you? And I only had you clean, so your lungs don't bucking die from suffocation from bucking dust. Izuku shrugged. The glass, such a weird feeling. Huh? What feeling? Katsuki mumbled, raising a brow. The quirk, he mumbled as he closed his eyes. Chapter 15. The quirk? The void. Never mind, Izuku muttered. He set the cup down and laid back, staring at his ceiling. Mitsuki appeared in the doorway. Are you okay, Izuku? Yeah, he mumbled. Will you stay okay? Izuku nodded and exhaled. Okay, Katsuki, let's go. What? No, did you not just see what happened? He can't be alone, he yelled, standing quickly. This is obviously serious, he growled, slamming the cup against the desk. Izuku glanced at Katsuki. He cares? It's fine, you can go home, I'll just stay asleep. Mitsuki nodded, agreeing with Izuku. He's fine. He's calmed down, he's gotten some water in his system. Everything will be fine. Let's go home. No, Katsuki retaliated. Katsuki. Now. Katsuki huffed and stomped out of the room. Don't do anything stupid, Deku, he yelled from down the hall. Izuku sighed as he heard the front door close. So this'll be your life now? Laying lazily waiting for time to kill you? You know. Shut up, Izuku mumbled. The voice never ceases to shut up. When will it end? Months I've been drained. The most emotion I've felt was when my mom first died, and then. I have a quirk, I haven't been taking the meds the doctor gave me, my quirk. It flew, the piece of glass flew, it was. The vase, my mother's favorite vase, I had no control of it. I broke my mother's favorite vase because you can't do anything for yourself. You had one job. One job. And it was to take those pills. Now you're destroying what's left of your mother. How are you going to kill her and destroy her thing? I didn't kill her, I mumbled. I didn't. We've been over this, it wasn't my FAU. You're still telling yourself that? She went on that trip to get away from you. She needed a break from the burden. And because of you she left and died. How is it not your fault? It's all your fault. I moved my hands to my ears and covered them. No, it's not. It was all you. You killed her. It's not, it wasn't me. How can you deny it? You know you did it. You know it's your fault for her death. You killed her. Stop it, I didn't do it. Yes, you did, stop running, you killed her, it's all your fault, you're alone, you're a murderer. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did, you're selfish, you only think of yourself, you meant to, you don't care about anyone else but you. It wasn't on purpose. Yes, it was, you hated her. You deserve nothing. You killed her. I loved her, she was my mom, I didn't do it, I didn't. I pressed my hands against my ears. Anything to shut it up. Anything to make it quiet. I press harder as if I'm going to crush my head. You can't shut me up, you lazy piece of shit, I'm in your head, you're insane, no one will ever believe you. I know, leave me alone, go away, get out. You're stuck with me until you kill yourself. Even then I'll stick to you like a leech. The voice laughs at me. I'm being toyed with. I am agonized and bullied. I don't even have to go to school to get bullied. You hate me, right? Yes, shut up. Kill yourself? Done. Deal? My room, which had been spinning, all of a sudden stopped. The voice muted. Kill myself? It would all end. Kaka never cared before, would he now? He's spent the last few months babysitting him. He's going into Yui, he won't have to worry about me if I'm gone, it'd all work out for everyone and myself. Don't leave a note if you do it. No one wants to know your last words. So get on with it. Sounds about right, yeah. You gonna do it soon? When I get up, I don't have the energy right now. I muttered, staring into the abyss of my ceiling. Wow. Too lazy to even kill yourself. You never cease to amaze me. Should just stay quiet. I sigh. I'll do it in a couple days, I know I'll have energy then. I turn onto my side and stare at the wall. When will I get up again, who knows? Might as well just perish there. A week and a half passed, Izuku hadn't moved a single inch. He didn't even try to eat or sleep. He only got up to use the bathroom, but it wasn't often since he never ate. Not a single being came to visit him. Not a single burst of energy welled up within him. How was he supposed to end things if he couldn't even manage the energy to stand? He exhaled again and glanced at his sheet. Dried blood from his coughing fits. He stopped taking his meds, his coughing grew worse. He didn't even know where his meds were. But he knew his time was nearing. Breathing was becoming a task, he barely had the motivation to continue. He's ready to give up his life. Izuku looking his worst, he heard the front door slam open. Deku. Chapter 16. Izuku heard the front door slam open. He has an idea who it was. He didn't care. He wasn't ready to deal with Katsuki. He thought that a week ago would be the last he'd see of him. Why is he here now? Katsuki ran up to Izuku's room, a letter in hand, excitement and joy clouding his chest. He opened Izuku's door, and it all spilled away. His childhood friend thinner than a bare skeleton. His skin paler than white paper. Dried blood next to his face, stained into his bedding, eye bags around his sunken eyes. He looked like he was dying. As if he were on his deathbed. Deku? Katsuki took a step into Izuku's room. Hey? He hesitantly walked towards Izuku's bed. Fearing the worst, he thought Izuku was dead, until he took notice of Izuku's long wheezing labored breaths. He's struggling. Katsuki's chest twinged. An ache developed within. Deku, wake up. Katsuki's chest ached. He should have checked on Izuku. He was busy, and assumed his mom would. Katsuki came to show Izuku his acceptation letter, and to bring his meds over cause his mom wouldn't. She kept forgetting. But he stumbled on a sight he didn't want to see. Izuku ever so slightly opened his eyes, glancing at the blonde. MH? He hummed. Deku, you're in pain, aren't you? Katsuki hid the letter in his back pocket. He quickly picked Izuku up. Izuku didn't even bother to try anything. His body limp like a rag doll. It's cold in here, let's get you a warm bath. Katsuki mumbled, quickly walking to the bathroom. Katsuki flipped the light switch on, but the light stayed off. Flipped the switch multiple times and assumed the bulb was out. Undress, he said Izuku by the tub. Now. Izuku glanced at him, then down at his clothes. He hummed quietly and let his body fall to the side. Katsuki huffed, watching him. It's so much more worse than before. Katsuki's eyes darted around the bathroom as he panicked. The Izuku he knew was gone. And the Izuku he has now is fading. He huffed, and quickly turned the warm water on. He waited for it to change temperature. But the water stayed cold. What? He mumbled to himself. Katsuki looked at Izuku, then turned the water off. He ran around the house, flipping any switch. No lights worked. He ran to the kitchen, all the appliances off. He opened the fridge, the food spoiled, and the inside warm. It was not a livable space. Nothing was working. Katsuki ran up to the bathroom. Izuku hadn't moved an inch. When was the last time you ate? Showered? Slept? Your meds? Do you not have any extra meds in this house? He knelt by Izuku as his eyes stared at Katsuki. He shrugged. Dunno, he mumbled. Dunno what? How long has it been? Izuku muttered, moving his eyes to the floor. Katsuki huffed and sat down. It's been about 2 weeks since my mom kicked you out. Izuku nodded. I see, it hasn't been that long. I'm fine then. He muttered, closing his eyes. What? Have you not done anything for 2 weeks? Katsuki raised his voice. Izuku lazily shrugged. Can you not do anything for yourself? Katsuki sighed. Why are you here? Izuku muttered. Katsuki placed the letter in front of Izuku. I was accepted. I wanted to tell you. To rub it in my face? That I'm a lazy, quirkless deadbeat? Izuku mumbled, glancing at Katsuki. No, I just wanted you to digest. Katsuki stood and huffed. Buck you? Stay there and die. Katsuki threw his pills in front of him and left, slamming the door. Izuku flinched, then looked at the pills. An opening. A mini burst of energy. He moved leisurely and grabbed the pill bottle. Spending a few minutes at war with the bottle, just to get it open, the lid finally popped. He dumped a handful in his hand and sighed, looking at them. Deku, I'm sorry. Katsuki mumbled, opening the door as Izuku put the handful in his mouth, swallowing them dry. What did you just take? Just one, right? Katsuki moved quickly, grabbing the mostly empty bottle. You dumb buck, what the buck is wrong with you? Katsuki panicked, grabbing Izuku's face roughly. What goes on in your brain, you damn idiot? Katsuki shoved his fingers down Izuku's throat. He weakly flailed in attempt of retaliation. Vomit, damn it. He shoved his fingers deeper as Izuku gagged. After a couple seconds of tussling, the pills in Izuku's stomach came up. God damn it, Katsuki removed his fingers and shook them off. God damn it, what the hell, Deku? Izuku sat there, eyes duller than a broken pencil. He failed again. I'm dying anyways, Kaken, why does it matter? What do you mean? You have a long life ahead of you, you dumb buck. Just because you're sad doesn't mean you're dying. Yes, I am. I'm dying. So let me just end it early already. Why do you keep interfering? Izuku sighed and began to stand, and then just gave up. Never mind, it doesn't matter, leave. He muttered, laying on the bathroom floor again. You're not dying. Katsuki ignored and stared at him. What do you think those pills are for? Izuku mumbled. The coughing, Katsuki muttered, picking up the bottle. No, not really, I'm 15 now. If I didn't take those, I'd already be dead. If I keep taking them, I'll live till 17. I haven't taken them in God knows how long, and my body feels as if it's shutting down. I'm dying. He hasn't heard Izuku really talk in months. Katsuki stared at him, then dropped the bottle. You just ruined most of the bottle, I'll get you more. Izuku huffed angrily. What do you not get? He sat up slowly, glaring daggers at Katsuki. Are you dull in the brain? I don't want to live anymore, what's so hard to understand? It doesn't matter anymore, nothing matters, nothing I do in the next few months will matter, I will never make an impact, I will never create a future for myself, and everything I looked forward to and loved is gone, I have nothing. Izuku huffed heavily, letting out weak coughs. He panted, staring Katsuki in the eyes. I have nothing to live for anymore, okay? Katsuki stared speechless. He could feel his heart in his ears. But he still believed Izuku should make the most of his life. Still try. No, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. Izuku screamed as his coughing fits began. He laid on the floor again, attempting deep breaths to try and calm himself. Katsuki moved and stood slowly. He knew he couldn't leave Izuku, he can't. The house is just a shell of a house. Nothing works. Everything is dusty. And Katsuki wants Izuku to live. He doesn't believe that Izuku is dying, he doesn't believe the short amount of time he has left. He plans to do anything to keep Izuku alive. How could he ever see a future of being a hero if he can't save his suicidal best friend? Katsuki stared at Izuku as the coughing got worse. Deku? Okay, you need to sit up. He mumbled, sitting Izuku up against the bathtub. Izuku gasped and wheezed, trying to calm and catch his breath, but no avail. He covered his mouth and began coughing harder as blood covered his hand and dribbled from his mouth. Oh, okay, I'll be right back. Katsuki panicked and slowly pulled his arms from Izuku that were holding him up and propped him up properly against the tub. Okay, Katsuki whispered and ran out of the bathroom and downstairs into the kitchen. He opened the pantry and found some water bottles. He grabbed a couple and ran back upstairs. Izuku's coughs grew more aggressive. He dropped his hand, letting the blood pool onto the floor. He could feel his lungs coming up his throat, his chest shooting pains through his body. You're dying, Deku. You can feel it, can't you? When he leaves, you know what you should do. Izuku tensed and gasped, attempting to fill his lungs with air. Struggling to breathe isn't fun, is it? You won't have to deal with it if you end it. Izuku shook his head, ignoring the voice. His coughing didn't cease to calm. There's a few pills left, take them. Take them. Take them. Take them. Take them. The voice repeated the same phrase over and over and over. Izuku knew Katsuki would be back any second, and his lungs can't catch a break. And no, Izuku managed to get out weakly. He gasped and spit out the blood pooling in his mouth. Izuku gasped and held his breath as his vision became fuzzy, his head spinning. Do it. Do it. You want to do it, do it, do it, do it, the voice screamed at Izuku as he covered his ears. Blood from his hand transferred to his face. And no, he muttered, exhaling the breath he was holding. No. Stop being a hussy, do it already, do it. Shut up, shut up, be quiet, stay quiet, shut up. Izuku beat his right palm against his head, tucking his head down as his coughing fits began again. Katsuki moved faster and opened the door to Izuku, talking to himself again. His eyes darted around, looking at all the blood. Izuku slowly curling his body into a ball as he beat his hand against his head, his left hand covering his ear. Blood smudged against his ears and cheekbones. No, Izuku shouted in between his coughs. And no, shut up! Izuku shouted as his coughing grew more aggressive, blood dribbling from his mouth. Katsuki flinched and moved quickly. He moved Izuku's hands and sat next to him. He opened a water bottle and waited for his cough to die down. You're okay, Deku, you're in control of yourself, you're okay. Katsuki mumbled as Izuku kept silent, staring at the floor. He hadn't known if Izuku was really listening. But his cough slowed, and all that was left was wheezes and short gasps for air. Good job, Katsuki muttered, tilting Izuku's head back and water falling a small amount of water into his mouth. Swish it around and spit it out in the tub preferably. Izuku acknowledged and swished it around his mouth, then slowly turned, spitting it into the tub. Good, Katsuki exhaled and handed the bottle to Izuku. Sip on it for now. Izuku held the open bottle in his lap. He looked down and stared at the bottle. He hummed. Come on, Deku, sip on it. Katsuki sighed. There was no response. Katsuki took the bottle and tilted Izuku's head back, water falling a little into his mouth. Swallow. Izuku swallowed and Katsuki did it 2 more times. Good job, that's enough for now. He closed the bottle and set it on the bathroom counter. We're going to my house so you can shower. First I'm going to clean this mess and wipe the blood off you. Izuku stared at him, then dropped his head as his eyes stared at the floor. Katsuki sighed and got up. He grabbed some rags and some cleaning supplies, going back into the bathroom. Hey Deku. Those chemicals sting inside you still? Drink those. Drink them. You want to. You did it before. Do it again. Izuku weakly shook his head no to the voice. Oh, don't be such a bum, you had so much balls when you were younger, what happened? Doing it again will surely finish the job. Izuku closed his eyes tight and shook his head no again. Katsuki glanced at him and furrowed his brows. He finished cleaning the blood and grabbed a clean rag, damping it, and wiping against Izuku's hands, face, and ears, clearing up most of the blood. Okay, all done. Let's go. Chapter 17. Come on, get up, Deku. Katsuki stood and waited for Izuku. He didn't move and kept shaking his head to himself. I'll help you, Katsuki mumbled, grabbing Izuku's frail wrist. He pulled Izuku up gently, helping him stand. Move slow so you don't get dizzy. Izuku stayed silent and kept his gaze to the floor as he stood. Okay, good, let's go. Katsuki held his hand gently and walked towards the stairs. You can walk down them, right? Katsuki looked back at the dissociated boy. Deku. No response. Izuku continued arguing with the voice in his head. Instead of verbally, he kept shaking his head in retaliation of what it says. Katsuki took notice. As long as he's not in a panic attack, all is fine. Katsuki slowly began down the stairs as Izuku followed. They walked out the front door as Katsuki locked it. You okay? Katsuki looked at Izuku before they continued to his house. No response. Katsuki sighed and began walking to his house, gently keeping a hold of Izuku's wrist. Izuku followed behind leisurely. Katsuki didn't move fast. He tried to keep a slow pace for Izuku. After a few minutes, Katsuki opened the door for Izuku. Izuku froze and stared at the doorstep. He hummed and glanced slightly at Katsuki. Your mom is home, Izuku mumbled. She'll kick me out, a guy, I'll just go back home. Izuku muttered, pulling his hand away and stepping back. It's fine, Deku, don't worry about it, she won't. Katsuki quickly grabbed his hand and pulled him inside. She owes you anyways. She lied to you, Katsuki grumbled, anger laced in his voice. Did she? Izuku mumbled as Katsuki dragged him upstairs to his bathroom. Yeah. She said she'd still pay the bills at your house. And everything is off. Oh, I see. Izuku mumbled and glanced around the bathroom. Katsuki started the shower and made sure it was warm. He turned the exhaust fan on and stepped back into the door frame. I'll get you a towel and clothes. If you don't wash your hair, at least just rinse your body down. I'll give you time. Katsuki stepped out and closed the door. Izuku turned and glanced in the mirror. His eyes widened as he quickly covered his face, moving away from it. Damn, you look like shit, aha. Izuku furrowed his brows and turned the light off, standing in pitch black. Wow, can even stand to look at yourself. Jeez. You're so pathetic. Izuku slowly got undressed and stepped into the shower. Warmth consumed his body. A pressure on his chest and lungs felt temporarily relieved. He exhaled and rinsed off his body and hair. The relief allowed him a burst of energy. He felt like he could shower comfortably. He slowly scrubbed soap into his hair and washed his body down. He rinsed off all the soap and stood there letting water run down his body. He turned the heat up and sat on the bathtub floor. He brought his knees to his chest and tucked his head down. The heat felt nice against his skin. He needed a shower, and the time to take it was worth it. The heat helped his chest clear up. It allowed him to breathe again. Deku. Katsuki knocked on the door and opened it. Why were the lights off, you okay? Katsuki set down the items. Deku? Izuku hummed in response. Katsuki exhaled in relief. When you're done, there's a towel and clothes for you. He hummed again. Katsuki sighed and left, closing the door. Izuku took his time. What felt like forever, Katsuki decided to check on him again. Deku? You've been in here for over an hour. Are you okay? Katsuki flipped the light on. Let's get you out now. Izuku dug his nails into his legs before letting go. He sighed as the water was turned off. He wished to stay in longer. Come on. Katsuki grabbed the towel as Izuku stood slowly. Izuku stayed behind the shower curtain as Katsuki handed him the towel. Dry off and change. We're getting food after. Katsuki left and closed the door. He's pitying you. How pathetic. I'm vomiting, it's so cringe. Izuku clenched his jaw and dried off. He leisurely got dressed and glanced into the mirror. Look at you, you look like shit. Izuku opened the bathroom door and walked out. He looked around, then down the hall towards Katsuki's room. He hesitated towards Katsuki's room, then sat by the bathroom door and waited. Katsuki dropped shoes and socks in front of Izuku. Put those on. He then went downstairs. Izuku stared at the shoes. Not going to obey this time? Come on, you were being such a good dog before. Shut up already. Izuku whispered, putting on the socks and shoes. You finally responded to me. How funny. He clenched his jaw, slightly grinding his teeth. A new emotion boiled up inside: annoyance. Irritation. Izuku stood. He slowly walked downstairs. Katsuki glanced at him and made his way to the front door. Let's go. Izuku stopped at the bottom of the stairs and stared at Katsuki. What? Come on. Katsuki furrowed his brows. I don't want to leave. Yeah. I know. Let's go. Katsuki walked over to him and grabbed his wrist, dragging him out the front door. You need this whether you want to or not. Katsuki mumbled, closing the door. Izuku kept silent as Katsuki pulled him to town.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.